to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. tonight. First agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next agenda item is correspondence, visitors, and public comments. Seeing that we have none, we will move to the next agenda item, which is the agenda review. Julie, do you have anything different for the agenda?
The only thing that is on this agenda, you and I had discussed, but it wasn't, it was just, it's a 2-minute video from Rich Ballard. He wanted us to take a look at it because he was unable to, there was a mix-up as to when the board meeting was and when the presentation of the STEM fair students would be. So he wanted to make sure the board was able to see it, and since it's so short, I thought we could show it after the administrative reports.
Thank you. Next agenda item is approval of the minutes of April 23rd, 2024. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 23rd, 2024.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Don. Any discussion or comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the April 23rd, 2024 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 701.
7-0. Who abstained?
Megan.
Okay. I wasn't here.
Next, we need a motion to approve the budget informational meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget information meeting on April 29th.
Thank you, Peter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Stephanie. Questions or comments? Great. All those in... Oh, go ahead, Peter. I'm sorry.
The only comment I had is after the meeting, some people that were here said they got lost in the school and wondered if we could have signage to where the library is in the school, so I wanted to bring that up.
They don't know the secret of you look for the Abnett mural and then turn left. That's how, yeah, I think that's very smart.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Signs. Perfect. Thank you, Peter. All right. All those in favor of approval of the budget informational meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Next agenda item is the property line adjustment update and right-of-way request from Ms. Wanton at Select Board.
So we have Earl Fournier and Joel Clark from the Swanton Select Board here to talk a little bit about a land swap that's happening hopefully between this town of Swanton, our neighbor Brian Rowell, and the school district. And there's a specific request, and I'm gonna take it to you all, and Jason and Laura have been involved all along the way as well.
This is an issue that's been dragging on for a considerable amount of time. It went into tax sale. The select board at that time felt it was very important that it not get in the wrong hands. So we bought the property. But we don't have any use for it. If it had road frontage, yeah, we probably have to make some money on it. But it is a landlocked parcel. The only people that really benefit from this property are the school district and Brian Rowell, because they have other access to get to this property, which the town does not.
Is this what they call the church?
Yes, it's a church property that it had been on the books ever since the school district was, the Union High School was formed. It never got used. There was supposed to be religious education. They were talking about maybe a facility there. That never happened. The group disbanded, but it was a taxable portion of land. So that created a problem. So what we're proposing, what the town is proposing, because we do have a garage out there now. And we could use a little extra land around our garage, but that land belongs to Brian Rao. You have property that is on the church property, road, dugout, batting, not dugout, but batting practice in that corner. So, yeah. It amounts, the acreage is probably, you're gonna net another, maybe close to 2 acres when it gets all said and done, because a portion of your road is on the Rao property. And, you know, when we talked with Brian, we said, hey, look, we wanna straighten the whole thing out. So when we get done, whatever all the parties agree on, the school is gonna have their road entirely on their property. So that means he had to give a portion of that property as part of the deal here. He's gonna end up with the rest of the church property. We're gonna net 3/4 of an acre at the town garage, and you guys are gonna be up around 2 acres, maybe a little over. And everything that you are using now will be on your property. The other issue that came up in the discussion, obviously, is the right-of-way, that you have your second right-of-way. Brian would like to be able to access this right-of-way to access his property. Now, the property, he'd like to sell it. I assume that someday, if everything goes according to plan, it's an ideal area to develop, especially for rental units, because of the municipal services that are available there. So you could see some developed there in the future if there's economic activity here in Franklin County. It's a prime piece of land. So with that in mind, if something like that was ever going to happen here to that extent, we had this discussion. Now we still have to discuss it with the select board, but it's really what would happen is this road would end up being a town road up to your school property. You know, it would be part of, because any big PUD that goes in, the requirement is the road be built to A70 or whatever the town standards are, because it's only a matter of time before the town takes it over. In this situation here, with the school being here and everything, we'd have a lot more incentive to do it, no matter what future select board comes around. So when it gets all said and done, at the end of the day, this is it's a good proposal because it does something for everybody. And it's clean. When we're done, it's clean. There's no more fooling around. The other part of this is we, in our discussions between the school and Brian and the select board, was that we agreed that we would split the cost of getting all this done. The town has already spent $6,000, but we're not looking to get reimbursed on that. But it's going to take another $4,400 for the surveyor to prepare all the documents so that we can go before the development review board and do the boundary line adjustment. There will be some legal costs drawing up the agreement between the 3 parties, because this right-of-way, we want to put that in writing. And right now, the discussion that we did have so far was that the school would continue to maintain it as long as it's used the same way it is now. And Brian would have I guess you guys will have to decide that, but some access to a key, whatever. But he's not going to be driving in and out of there with vehicles. I mean, maybe just to go up there and walk around once in a while. He can't farm it. There's no farmland out there, so. I don't see him using it a lot, but he just, that's part of the agreement. And then we'd have to have that discussion in there. Future development would have to, that road would have to be done that way. Everybody's protected as much as you can get protected in this day and age. And so I'm estimating, let's throw on another, maybe $2,000 probably for each party to get this done and get it recorded.
So are you asking for the board to make a motion to grant the right of way, or just sort of ahead, it's too early?
Way too early.
Yeah. And I would assume that,
Yeah. Just,
when we're executing an agreement, that at that point, that's when we would make a formal motion, the board would make a formal motion.
I think what we'd like though is for the board, maybe a motion that they agree in principle with
To
what was
move
presented,
forward.
and then we were gonna write up a draft agreement,
Mhm.
send it to you folks,
Absolutely.
send it to Brian, everyone make their adjustments to it. So we'd like to get a letter signed before we go back to the surveyor that we're all in agreement in principle, understanding, you know, that all the fine details gotta be worked out. But that's, we would actually like to get that possibly from the board tonight.
that and a commitment to fund it. Sorry, I gotta bring that up, especially right now, but, you know, it's gonna be hard for me to sell this to the rest of the select board members if everybody's not willing to share in the cost.
I would have been disappointed if you had brought it up.
Yes, that's not an issue, as long as we're doing that in this year.
Did somebody make notes when Earl and were speaking and Mr. Clark were speaking, so we can make that a motion?
I think Peter's,
So just
I'm not sure
the,
it's a motion necessary.
so what I don't know exactly how to word the motion, but what we're saying is in principle, we agree to
To the map.
what's on here.
These two maps.
Yep, the portion that the school district will receive. And I think the biggest thing, and we don't have to decide it tonight, and Brian was out there, and I think he's very agreeable. It's just he has to have a right of way on this road,
Yeah.
or it doesn't make sense for him.
Yeah.
And I think that we can do that. So a couple things, we fence that off at night. We don't allow people in there. So for him to have access, we have to work out something where he can have access to that gate to unlock it or something. We don't have to figure that out tonight, but those are the kind of things that we have to think about. And future, and I don't know how many years down the road it would be, but if this ever did get developed, they may, if they can't get from the main road, if they can't get access to that property, he wants to be able to have access to the property from this frontage road. That's when, talking with the select board, I'd like to see up to where the school property starts. I would like, because right now we maintain that road, and we'll continue to maintain that road under this agreement. But what I don't want to get into is if this gets developed and this road has to be upgraded to a certain standard before the town takes it over, I don't want that responsibility to fall on the school district. So I don't know if that's an agreement with Brian or the town or whoever, but I'd like some kind of agreement that that's not going to be the school's responsibility and that the town will be willing to take over that road.
Yeah, like we discussed outside, if a developer was gonna come in here with a proposal to the town, that's a requirement according to our zoning bylaws, you know, that road be built to that standard. So, doesn't mean the town is gonna take it over at that point, but it does mean the road has to be built to that standard for them to get their permit. And we could put language in there, you know, that says that you would not be liable to upgrade that road.
The way I see it is your right-of-way could be written, your granting of the right-of-way could be written such that it's as the road is right now.
Right.
Any further development, it's your road, so they've got to come, the developer would have to come to the school board and work that piece out. So that's the way I would see that right-of-way being granted with the road the way it is now, and any future upgrade would have to be brought before the board, because it is your property, so that
Right.
could be written to that way. So to me, what I see is, in principle, on the two drawings, the right-of-way access and the sharing of the cost are kind of the three key issues that if we could walk away with some type of agreement tonight, that would be a win for everybody, I think. That's the way we see it anyway.
And, you know, we're not here, the approach has been right from day one that this isn't something we're gonna try to take advantage of somebody, but
Right.
we wanna do what's right for everybody involved and get it done so in the future nobody's gotta worry about it. It's, you know, we're not here to take advantage of the school.
I think as a school board, thankful that you're thinking of us in as far as, you know, having the property that is so close to us, giving us some breathing room there. Laura, did you have something that you wanted to add?
No, I just think you would want to have legal counsel look at a letter of agreement even prior to agreeing to that, that's all. You know,
Okay.
not just to protect the school district too.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jason or Dan, if you had any other things that we need to consider?
Brian did talk about making that trail that's currently there, accessible to our students. It was great, under no liability to him, so that'd be fantastic.
All right, that's one thing we could put in that agreement.
Again, we would just start a draft, and then
Yeah.
I think everybody would probably go to their council
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get a head nod that it's good, get the legal verbiage added.
But just so you know, we want to get this done. You know, we spent more time on it than we should have, so we want to get it done. So we're gonna, you know, we'll get that agreement to you, I would say probably within a week. And, you know, we'd hope to hear back within a couple of weeks with your comments. And I don't think it's gonna be a real big issue. I don't think there's gonna be anything there that we're really gonna need to make a big deal about and get together again. And then we just put it all together and all the boards can look at it. And, you know, Brian can agree to it and we approve it.
It may be nice, as I mentioned outside in the letter of agreement, to just have an outlined time frame, like we all, you know, unless
Yeah.
unforeseeable circumstances
Yep.
within 6 months, a year, whatever
Yeah.
is agreeable, that would just to keep everybody moving.
I was thinking 2 months.
2 months, so.
Get it done, right, Earl? Were you in high school when that land transferred? originally?
Yes, I probably would have been either at St. Anne's or, I doubt if it was Swan High. They must have done it before that. I probably was still in the 8th grade, though, maybe the 7th. I'm not quite that old. I'm old, but no.
So I don't know, again, who's writing stuff up, but I think Peter had the wording Peter had sounded like a good motion. And it both builds on what Joel and Earl
Yep.
said, really those three things. Because I see nobody disagreeing in principle with it, or the money, or the timeline. So if that is a motion, then I will second it.
All right,
Authorizing the superintendent and administration to move forward with the surveying and
Well, probably simple, just a letter of agreement.
letter of
Because the survey is all done.
that we would bring to the board for final approval.
So I'll make a motion to instruct the administration to move forward with a proposal letter of agreement based on the map and the survey, with the intent to share the cost of the survey with the town and Mr. Rowe.
So, can I add survey and any other legal?
Just say legal costs probably.
Yeah, there will be some, yeah.
Yeah, survey and any cost for legal survey. I'll second that, Peter.
Peter's first, Donna's the second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you sincerely.
If you're gonna throw those drawings away in a couple of sets, I'll be glad to take them.
I would like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you want.
If you want them, that's fine. Just-
I have a small one there, but
Thank you. Do you need these?
I was just gonna take one instead of the large ones if no one wanted them. There we go, right there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. I know it's gonna share. Soothing sounds coming from Dawn.
Dawn's trying to put us to sleep.
It's Dawn's
I tried not to do it because I had it in the one day and I said, but I clicked on something and it's really good to get that done. That's been around a long time.
It has.
Yeah, that's a good project.
I think it's wonderful.
All right, next agenda item is administrative reports, and we'll start with the district newsletter. If anybody would like to point anything out, make any comments, ask questions. Julie and her team.
So you have legislative update, so I'm thinking it's probably updated since this.
It's, yes, pay only attention to things that already passed. The yields bill, of course, in order to get this ready, I had to use the latest information, knowing full well that it would be changing. The yield bill did pass. The governor is publicly saying he's going to veto it. The veto session will be June 17th. We do not know what will come there. Speculation is that there's not necessarily override of the veto. It's not something that there was broad consensus on. So we will have to see what happens at the end of June.
And the STEM Fair video is good.
Is there speculation that they got enough votes to override it?
No,
No
I don't
speculation.
believe they do. But people could change their mind. What happens? Do they stay into July and continue to work at the bill until they feel they have consensus
Right.
and veto either? They believe the governor wouldn't veto it, or they would have the votes to override the veto.
Right.
So it's going to be a tricky session for them.
Yeah.
There is a 13% income tax credit increase that people will be receiving, though, as part of the bill.
Yeah, I
Important to note.
did see that, but and I think that's great. I think that, unfortunately, when you're trying to pass a budget, that's a hard sell.
Oh, right,
Like,
yeah.
People can't visually see that thing, and none of us can say, well, don't worry, yours is going to get reduced this much because it's all based on income, and no one has a,
Right.
insight on everybody's individual tax bills. So it's, even though it's good, it's not going to be it's not
No,
going to be
it doesn't
easier
help us
for us
much.
to sell.
Well, there's a video with a link that helps you calculate that.
There's a tax rate, income tax credit calculator that the state of Vermont puts out on their website. I can send it to you guys. It's
that
not
might-
easy to use necessarily, but
Yeah.
We can stress the fact that we have a high number of families or individuals in our district that qualify for that.
we do.
And share a link.
Exactly, so we can at least promote it and say, a lot of you are going to benefit from this.
Yeah.
Here's how to find out.
Yeah, we definitely could at least talk about it and
Yeah.
let people know that that's in the bill.
Because they would know. I mean, the people who get it know that they get it. Well, I assume that they know that they get it.
I would think so.
No
I would think so,
comment.
then we can share that out.
Peter?
Julie, I don't know how versed you are in these bills, but a couple of them that I haven't really been following, I'm just curious about. Open meeting law, it sounds like it's just clarifying, so it's not gonna be we're not gonna see any real changes to our meetings or anything?
I have not heard that it has. They keep changing the law to allow for Zoom. My understanding is what was in the proposal, and I didn't look at it just before this meeting, so I apologize, is that they were making it so that you had to offer both online and in person.
And where are they at with that PCV bill?
Laura, do you have an update on that from Friday?
That it died, basically. The delay of the PCBs, whoever proposed that bill, the bill died the next month. So I'm not being very specific, but the bill is dead to postpone.
So it's not gonna
That's-
be postponed?
That was my understanding. I heard it.
I can't
It
remember where it
didn't make
died.
it didn't make it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. In committee, or I'm
Yeah,
not sure
committee
what it
maybe,
was. Yeah. I did see that.
How many students, I should say, for the school choice, do you have a tally yet of coming in and going out?
Yes, so that's in the report. And just to finish up on the legislative, when we get the wrap-up of the status. I have not bothered the executive director of VSA to say what's the update on all of these. We will get one in a week or so, and then I'll make sure that's shared with the full board. Our elementary school choice
I saw it in the report, I just wanted
was
to put it out.
17, switching between schools, and that is closed. I did actually have one family reach out to me again, but when I reached out to the principals involved, we've already reached our sort of cap, because we can't fill with school choice. We have to make sure we have enough space for students who move in over the summer, and we always have a few. So we're having classes of 20 kids or more in our classes, in our schools. As far as high school, we had one student coming to MVU for next year, and we had 9 students requesting to attend elsewhere. I believe last year was 7. Previously, we used to have school choice numbers in the teens and into 20, so we actually are trending a lot better. And the reasons, people list multiple reasons. Sometimes there's a special program. Sometimes it's the tech center is the special program or a different special program. People cite everything from family went there to athletic programs that are offered, or, you know, academics, and that's their perception, is that they're looking for something there. So there was no big trend.
Do we have anybody going into Chittenden County?
We won't know that. Because most people listed BFA. One student listed several schools, and it's up to those other schools to make the determination whether they accept the student or not.
What's that happen? Do we lose those students off our books or no?
No. We continue to count those students. Or rather, the school educating the student codes those students as school choice students, and the state applies them to our long-term weighted average daily membership. So, and we always triple check to make sure we're not missing any students.
So, just want to go back to school choice for a minute, because that was a big thing when we first merged as a district, and one of the first policies that we put together. So, Julia, 17 students, is that the most, or is that?
That is the most we've had.
Okay.
We have a couple of families with multiple children that have made the decision, so that's why the number's a little bit higher.
So have we seen, like, because I believe the way we put the policy together, once they switch, they can stay in that school?
They stay through 6th grade.
Are you seeing that they're staying?
That's what we have been seeing.
Okay.
It's been 5 years now.
Good.
And we really have seen people who move, and then we let them stay through, because that's in our policy. And then we have them apply. At this time, the majority of those applying are at the entrance of kindergarten. And so that's where, in particular, we have to be very, I look at the enrollment, I look at the needs that we know of, because we need to absorb those students without adding staff, right? So that's why we have caps that we set for enrollment after 20. We don't, and if it's kindergarten, it's lower than 20, because we don't want really large kindergarten classrooms. So we try and make sure that that we're accepting as many. We have not had to say no to anybody that applied during the window. It's when people say, oh, but really, can you fit me in? That's when a lot of times we can't do that because of numbers, and resources are divided already and assigned.
I'm really glad to see that program's working like we intended.
And it's been pretty even.
Yeah.
It really has.
They provide their own transportation,
They
right?
do provide their own transportation, yes. And we put that in the frequently asked questions that I make sure I send to every family, so that that's really clear.
Great. Any other questions, comments?
I'd like Kosha to talk about first ever MVSD Literacy Night. She might.
Yes, we had our first district-wide literacy night last week at MVU. We had invited families from all 3 of our towns, elementary schools, to come and participate. And we had about 58 people there. We also had about 10 administrators who were there. And we had nationally known children's book author Paul Reynolds who came to do a presentation and really talk about the link between creativity and literacy. And then in the Commons, we had all kinds of activities for families to participate in. And Paul Reynolds had kind of challenged the adults to also be creative. So it was wonderful to see children and parents working together on different activities. And then he had brought a lot of his own books that he was autographing, and even though the event was ending at 7:30, we had people there till 8:15. So it was really wonderful to see children from all 3 of our towns being there together in the same space. And Rennick, really appreciate you coming and lending your support.
Yeah, it was a great event. Kids, they had a really good time. I couldn't figure out the word problem though, so that was my problem.
Next time.
Any other questions, comments
For admin?
for admin?
Since Emma is here, she can go over the after-school report and kind of where we are with programs coming up in the summer.
Yeah, hi. We are pretty much fully booked in Swanton and Highgate for our summer programs. We're really excited. Thanks to some of our last ESSER funding, we're still able to host our full programming, full day programming 8 to 3 for 4 weeks, and then we've decided to do a collaborative half day with Swanton Recreation for a 5th week to try to cover as much as we can in the community. With the absence of the Notch summer programming, I'm actually speaking with some folks from the Notch and the St. Albans Messenger Thursday to talk a little bit about how we're trying to utilize community resources to really just make sure that we are offering as much as we can to our kids. We've been working closely with Swanton Library as well. And in response to our kind of over-enrollment, they are opening extra weeks of their own summer camp to make sure that we can, again, just be in this together to support the community. So we're feeling pretty good about how summer looks right now. We're in the middle of our summer food service application, which hopefully will be working with Tina. And it's looking like it's going to be a great time. I'm really enthusiastic. We are fully staffed with some great staff members, knock on wood. And yeah, and we also received a statewide after-school grant that is level funded for 3 years. Which we're really excited about, which is going to help us invest in our teen leadership series in a more robust way. So we did our Futures Week last year thanks to Vermont Community Foundation funding, and we'll be able to continue our Futures Week initiatives, our teen leadership series, and all kinds of stuff with this really fantastic grant opportunity. So there's a lot of great stuff coming down the pipe for us, and we're just remaining hopeful that we can keep the full summer programming moving forward as well, because we know how important that full day is for our families. We are offering transportation for 4 of those 5 weeks, which we have heard from the community loud and clear that it's definitely something that is needed and wanted. We are continuing to gather data around that though, because it is such a huge cost. We've had some great contracted services coming in. I think again, and we have unified themes throughout the towns. This is something we started a couple years ago, so every summer camp in each school will at least have sort of a unified theme, and our idea is that we'll have some joint field trips to get, again, sort of like Kosha was doing with the literacy night, really trying to unite the students from our different towns to create that sense of community and camaraderie and excitement around what we have to do here at MVSD.
Wow.
Thanks for asking.
So basically, you're not having a summer.
No, we never do. No, everybody's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have a good summer break, and I'm like, what? But it's gonna be a good time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're gonna move to NVU. If anybody has any questions or comments, I know I do. I had touched base with Dan because they're really good about putting on, I'm trying to find her name.
Julie Curtis?
Thank you, Julie Curtis, about, on the Facebook page for school, the seniors get the opportunity to send in their senior picture and a little something about them, and it just gets acknowledged to the community, and you can see a lot of the community, even if they don't know the kids, they're liking it, they're saying congratulations, the kids are getting excited, and I think it's like a big, it's a big boost for the kids, so I think that's a really great thing that she does.
Dan, was it last year you started taking the bus trip around the district?
The senior walk?
No,
Yes.
and you're continuing that?
Yes, we are.
Great.
That'll be Wednesday, June 12th.
You're probably in there somewhere.
It's it's in the upcoming events. If you take a look at the end, the upcoming events, there's a lot of upcoming events. The building's a very busy place in the month of May and June, and June 12th is the morning of the senior walk.
I'm just trying to get through that.
Yeah, you give me both.
And the walk actually starts in our own building. So the seniors go through both C and J pod where 7th and 8th grade is. So they get to see them first and then they get on the bus to go. It's a nice touch.
How many people have you gotten for the senior banquet? Families have, do you know?
I think the deadline is to sign up is this coming Friday, so I'm not entirely sure. I know that there was a big push. I've been making the announcement in the morning. I think it's pretty sure it's over 50.
It's over 50 seniors.
Yep.
So plus families. So
Right.
it was over 120 the last I heard. And the only reason I know is because Beth Grenier is in the middle school office and she's one of the advisors. So.
Good. Hope you get a good outcome for that. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Dan or Christy?
Are we going to continue the building trades next year at MVU?
Unfortunately not. It's become so, the building trades are so popular down with the number of kids that they have signing up that they can't do the satellite here, which is unfortunate because they really do want to continue that.
I know, it's so great.
And we would love to continue that.
Yeah.
It's been such a great partnership with NCTC in doing that. And but unfortunately, with so many, their program is just growing, and that just speaks to the number of kids signing up for the trades, which is great to see. But yeah, we've been in communication with both Leanne Wright and with Ross Savoy, and it's just, unfortunately just isn't going to work next year.
Well, I think BFA should hire another teacher, don't you?
Northwest Tech.
Their budget passed, they can.
Unfortunately, they're having a hard time filling those kinds of positions statewide. So,
No,
I threw that out there.
I understand. Just thought I'd throw it out.
There is a possibility of doing it every other year depending on enrollment.
No, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've done numerous projects around here, and which has been fantastic, and they do good work. So it's a lot of pride in them. You know, not only the wall, but the shed, and the lean-to on the blue building. It's a lot of pride for them.
Yes, and it's exciting. Very exciting.
Anybody else for Dan or Christy? After, then we've got the STEM fair video.
Do you want me to share that?
Yes, please. And then after the STEM fair video, the rest of the administrative staff can leave at the end, everybody. Let everybody see it.
Yes.
Do we know if this has sound or not?
Huh?
It does.
It does.
Yes, what do I need to do, Derek?
You'll have to share your screen and make sure you share your sound as well.
And come in over and tell me what to do before I make a fool of myself like last time.
So let's stop sharing. Then let's share screen.
Yes.
And where's that
Sound
checkbox? Share sound right there.
And respond,
Should be good.
Oh, look, I need to enter my password. That's fine. I'm enjoying technology so much this week.
Julie got a new computer.
Yeah, this isn't it. I'm sticking with the old one until the new one does what I need it to do all the time.
There's no sound, Julie.
Wow. We can read.
What do I do next?
Hit play?
Or maybe it's because I'm muted. Thank you for that.
Is that shared publicly?
If we.
It is muted. It was still sharing the audio. That's why. Goodness gracious. Okay.
Julie, Peter had a question.
I'm sorry.
Peter had a question.
Is that shared in the public or on the website or something?
We can update the board agenda so that the link is there, or we can link it in the minutes.
It's on, because it's on the agenda.
I played at least twice a day.
Is it possible to get an error fixed before that happens?
Yeah.
To get a what?
I saw
An
that
error
first.
fixed?
Oh yeah, we'll update the.
It says Norwich is in Norwich and Norwich is in Northfield. On one of the slides. In the video it says Norwich University in Norwich, but Norwich is in Northfield.
Oh. I can ask Rich Ballard to change his video. Yeah, we don't want things that are incorrect on the website.
Thank you very much, Martha. Wendy, Tanya, thank you.
Oh, is that where that came from? I saw that there.
Thank you, Kosha.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a nice night.
All right. Next agenda item is discussion items.
I have to uncheck share sound.
It's a very Monday, Tuesday.
There, I'm not hearing our voices 40 times, so that's a good thing.
Discussion A is budget revote survey results.
So, as discussed in our Finance Committee meeting, we wanted to do a quick survey. We wanted to look at the areas of the budget that, and what they're called in the budget as well, so that people were knowing sometimes what is in some of those areas too. So it really was to serve two purposes, but we really wanted to get some feedback on the areas of the budget that people are supporting cuts, because we hear lots of things, but we wanted to get some feedback. So as you can see, we got a lot of feedback from parents. We also got a good percentage of folks who are in the community but don't have children in our schools. So that's always positive. The question really was just, in each area of our budget, we'd like to hear the degree to which you support reductions. So 1 being low, 5 being high preference for making reductions in those areas. And the first is instructional programs. That's by far the largest area of our budget, and that's where all general education, teaching and staff positions are: tuition to the tech center, tutors, interventionists, supplies, materials, books, all of the things that are required to run our general education programs across all of our schools. As you can see, very low desire to cut from that area. Special education includes special ed teachers and support positions, tuition to outside placements. That's one of our growing areas of the budget. Those costs are have seen a lot of inflation, and specialized contracted services. And again, by far, most people were not looking for reductions, the feedback they gave. It was not a high priority for folks to look for reductions in that area. Principal's office, we wanted to make sure we included this, not because principal's office line has more than just principals in it. It includes principals across all of our schools, as well as any administrative support positions, internet, telephone, department leaders here at the high school. Those department budgets, graduation expenses and supplies. So a lot of things go into that line, and you can see it was mixed across. As many really not wanting to as wanting to from that area. General administration and district services, those are the services that come under central office and that are district-wide, and that includes not just the people that work in administrative services. One of the things I think it's important to note is before we merged, there were a lot of positions in all of the schools that duplicated work, and we have consolidated those in, for example, a Medicaid. We used to have Medicaid clerk positions and special ed secretaries in every single school. We just had, and we had one in central office. Now we just have one in central office. So that's an example. But it's not just the staff in those, not just the staff, but also many of the things that district-wide we need to pay for. So unemployment insurance, liability insurance, health benefit costs, all of those kinds of district-wide expenses are in that general administration. And you can see it's sort of divided, lots of the in the middle. Plant operations and capital includes the building and grounds positions, property services, maintenance, repair, equipment, and capital projects. And I was pleased to see we didn't have a lot of people calling for that to be a high area of reduction, although I know the board has some reductions there just through timing. But we can see that people generally, as we've heard for years, support our capital projects. Student support includes, it's another fairly good size portion of the budget. Those are behavioral management positions. Years ago, those positions were all in different places in our budget, and now, because of the Uniform Chart of Accounts, they're all in one area, so it's a lot easier to see from year to year. But that would be contracted support for students and employees that also support students experiencing behavior challenges.
What's an example of a management position?
A planning room person, or a CAT worker working with a student, well, or for a contract from NCSS that works with many students, for example. Student transportation, not surprising that there's low interest in making reductions in those areas. And just for the community, that includes transportation to and from school, but also after school transportation, transportation for field trips, transportation for athletics, and out of district placements. And then interscholastics and athletics, athletic director positions, the athletic trainer, referees, coaches, equipment, supplies for those departments. And that includes elementary as well as middle high school. And that was a low preference area to make reductions. Other important input that was given to the board, where you get your information, a lot, still a good chunk from the newspaper, Vermont Digger, which gives information about education generally, but not about us specifically. Conversations, newsletters and notices from the school was a large one. Our website was a large one. Our school district Facebook, emails from the school, viewing and attending meetings, communication with school board members, and then with others, people filled in different areas.
School board does not.
I can look it up. It's something an individual type in. So when you have an other, people can write whatever they like there.
Gotcha.
Other, I think I went in the wrong direction. Surprise. So what motivates you to vote on school district issues? I think we still see the usual breakdown of motivated by providing our students with a quality education was by far the highest response, followed by keeping property taxes as low as possible, and then being an involved citizen. I took out voting for school board members because that was relevant in this next round. And that's the end of the...
So it would be fair to say that majority of these respondees are supportive student services, so don't, because it was shared how?
It went out to parents and it went out on Facebook. And it gets shared by our different town Facebook pages. Shared from there. And again, it was a quick turnaround, so we actually had good response.
Questions or comments from anybody? Okay. Next, we're going to move on to the revised budget proposal and adoption.
Can I ask some questions?
Hi, Siobhan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
I did have some questions. Bear with me here. So, honestly, personally, I'm not a fan of the way that, like, everything is budgeted and how the surveys go out and, what am I looking for the right words? How some things are grouped together. For instance, in the principal's office, it has graduation expenses. And I personally wouldn't want to see any cuts to any of the graduation expenses. But I would want to see cuts to the principal's office, but not the graduation. So is there a way to separate that question so that I'm not taking away from the graduation and still supporting the students, you know,
Right.
but also being able to say, you know, I don't mind cuts in the principal's office and the positions.
Right, well, the how things are grouped is determined by the state. They require us to code things certain ways. You know, we were looking for broad areas of feedback, and, you know, what actually gets cut is, you know, the board adopts a number based on recommendations from administration. I don't think anyone's hoping to cut graduation expenses, for example. We cut where we believe we can manage with reductions.
I think the goal of that, of these questions and providing the details on what's included, was to help inform people that we're not in control of these codes. The, you know, what gets grouped under what office, as Julie said, is dictated by the state. And it's hard to understand what that means when you just say principal's office. Well, you might just think, okay, well, that's just the principals alone and just their salaries. But this is an attempt to kind of draw back the curtain and say, no, it is the people, it is also things like graduation supplies, it is also everything else that we have listed. So I think that was the intent of how the questions were posed, was to try and increase people's understandings of what exactly falls under each of these designations.
Okay, so you're saying that graduation expenses are typically something that is under a principal's office?
Oh, yes, that's where
Always.
it's required to be there. So we're not asking folks, do you want to cut graduation expenses? We're asking folks, you know, given this is what's in the principal's line, so it's twofold. Are you interested in seeing cuts in these kinds of areas, but also letting people know what's in the budget in these kinds of areas?
Okay, also, so under general administration and district services, this part includes district administrative and support staff positions. This may have the same answer, but my question, again, is why is this not listed as its own question? I would support cost cuts in district administrative and support staff positions. However, this question also includes unemployment, workers' compensation, liability insurance, interest expense, legal and audit expense, and health reimbursement benefit expenses for the district. So the question is, are unemployment, workers' compensation, liability, and the rest, anything that can actually be reduced in the budget, are these requirements? You know, like, you have to have, obviously, unemployment insurance and all that stuff. And then on top of that, the health reimbursement benefit expenses for the district. Is this the same thing that the board was stating about health insurance costs going up to the insurance companies and not the district? And that it was something that was out of the hands of the district when it comes to the budget?
Those are two different things. So one, similar to the principal answer, people have asked a lot of questions about what's general administration, what's in these different line areas. So we're showing what's in those line areas, not saying that we're cutting unemployment insurance, for example, right? But that a lot of people don't understand that that's a cost that we carry that goes into the central office general administration budget. Health reimbursement is something we need to have, but that's different than health insurance. The health insurance It is part of our health insurance, we're required to have it, but we budget for how much people tend to use, for example. So
Okay.
but that's different than the employer share and the cost of the healthcare program that's in place.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. I mean, on the same note though, I understand that all these things like under general administration, district services, and everything that's under principal's office is a matter of coded, and it's what's considered in that whole gist of things. However, like, I still think it would have done better for clarification if you had separated a little bit. You could still say this is a part of this office, but would you support, you know, the cut of this, the cut of that, the cut of this, etc.
That would be a different survey, but, you know, I mean, that's the work that we do.
Yeah, it would be a
Right,
different survey.
yeah.
It would be more inclusive, and, you know, it would be a little bit more to the point. It would give you directly, like, you would know specifically that I wouldn't mind cutting principal cost and administrative cost, but I do mind cutting graduation expenses and other things that obviously are out of our hands that you have to have. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Somebody else would like me to ask, and I don't know much about the background information on this, but I'm just for the record gonna ask. Why, it says they, so I'm gonna say you, why you didn't take the option to have health insurance through the state like all state workers have?
The state of Vermont, there's a law that says that all educators will be covered under Vermont state health insurance for educational health insurance. It's not the same as the state worker health insurance. They're separate programs. And that is something that is in the state law. So we don't get a choice around that.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I don't have much personal background knowledge on that, but I wanted to go ahead and ask. Another question from this person is asking you guys to explain the formula used to come up with a price for each student. I'm gonna go ahead and preface this by saying, and I'll say it to him as well, I don't exactly expect an answer. I myself have done a whole lot of research from a non-knowledgeable standpoint, trying to immerse myself in the terminology and how the formulas work and whatnot, and it's still quite, you know, it can still be taken many different ways, you know, if you don't have exactly the right information. I know before in the budgets, what I can say is before in the budgets, a lot of times it was said that the yield wasn't set, so you don't know what that means until the state sets the yield. Now that the state has set the yield at 13.8%, can you tell us what that now means in correlation to the budget?
So the yield is not 13.8%. That's an average increase in educational spending across the entire state of Vermont. The yield is currently set at $98.93, which that is a multiplier, or divider probably, for counting our pupils. I can give you the short version of how our students are counted, because it is different this year, which is why the whole state is really in a little bit of flux over spending. So we used to have something called equalized pupils, which was a weighting of students. High school students costing more to educate than elementary students, etc. Weights for students eligible for free and reduced lunch, English language learners, and other categories. That has changed because that was set in the 80s. And it was not related in any way with how much it actually costs to educate a student who has a greater need than another. So that change happened, and it's now called long-term weighted average daily membership, where they take our enrollment or average daily membership, and it is averaged over a few years, and then weights are applied, and this comes through our data collection, and we're very careful about our data collection. We have somebody who makes sure our data is correct. It's submitted to the state, and then they tell us, according to a weighting system that they have, and it's the first year of this, they tell us how many long-term weighted average daily members we have. So it actually, in our district, increased our student count because the state is recognizing that Swanton, Highgate, and Franklin have been educating students with a lot of need and less tax capacity to meet that need for many, many years. So we actually have an increase in long-term weighted average daily membership.
What's our average cost?
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Our last budget.
I have one more question.
Siobhan, real quick, we're just gonna let you know, our average cost per pupil last year was what? 12,000?
something.
Well, it's a different metric.
It's a different
You
metric.
had equalized pupils in different weights,
Yeah.
so you really can't compare.
But for the most part, we expect it to be under the state average.
We're
You're
significantly below the state
significantly.
average. We're in the lowest quarter of the state for our spending per student.
Yeah, so that's the one thing, Siobhan, just, there's a new calculation, but our spending per student will be lower than the state average. Also given our budgetary.
Okay, that would be in that graph that showed you the guys at like 26 or so.
Yep,
Or
absolutely.
maybe,
Yep.
like you guys were mid-level for pupil, per pupil.
We're mid,
We're bottom.
we're above, we're in the average range for our performance, and we're in the lowest quarter for our spending. That's what that
Okay.
graphic means.
My last question is, kind of a general one about school budgets, but, is the board aware of the House Ways and Means Committee meeting on April 25th, 2024? To draft, this is draft number 1.1, Section A, School District Budget Approval Alternative Process.
Yes, we're aware of that. That did not make it out of the legislature. So they've had many versions of that bill, and it's been debated in the House, and then it was, and they changed that before it even left the House. And the bill as passed, you can go on to the Vermont legislature website and find the bill as passed, and it does not have an alternative means of of budgets. That was too dramatic, I think, for them. And instead, there will be a committee that looks
I agree. It would have taken the vote away from the people, is what it would have done. It would have, and then it would have forced the hands of the board, which I think would have just created more animosity against board members that are just trying to do a good job for the people, you know, and I wasn't sure how that went across. I think it was in H689, but I couldn't find the lingo in there, so thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all done, thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the MVSD revised budget proposal and adoption. I don't know. Is that, John, was that you trying to ask a question?
No.
Okay. All right, so the finance committee met, again, to try to come up with a, proposed budget, here for the board. A couple of law considerations. I'm not gonna read through all of these, but I'll just kind of highlight the important ones. So one of the things is we have to wait at least 30 days due to the failure of the borrowing article. So otherwise, we could have potentially come out within 10 days, but because that didn't pass, so we have to wait at least 30 days in order to propose a new budget. Vote must be warned 34 days before the vote, so the earliest possible date for a vote, if we have adopt one tonight, will be June 13th, correct? Where's that 14th? 13th. Must still have an informational meeting, not more than 10 days before the vote. Some other considerations: if the failed budget as of July 1st, board has the authority to borrow 87% of FY24 budget only until passed budget. So it means we would keep trying to go out to get an actual passed budget, but at that point we can borrow. There is a nuance there that if we have an approved budget but the borrowing article fails, we're somewhat stuck. Because we'll have an approved budget, but we won't be able to start borrowing against it until, how would that work? We'd have to keep going out for
We'd have to go out
for a borrowing article.
for a borrowing article.
Yeah, which,
That would be very hard because we couldn't pay
yeah.
the after-school people or.
So that would, that would actually help us in the worst position. So hopefully they will pass. So if passed budget as of July 1st, budget must approve borrowing article. May want to wait until July 1st for the next vote to ensure borrowing availability. So just some considerations as we discussed tonight. Next one more. Ballots. We can have this discussion now or further. Absentee ballot timeline takes minimum of 3 weeks. Ballot takes minimum of 10 days to print and mailed. Highgate clerk. So the Highgate town did suggest potentially mailing all voters ballots this round. Something we could discuss. Right now, to my understanding, everyone who had an absentee ballot, they'd already requested it for previous votes, will automatically get a ballot again.
Yes.
So that's something that the board can consider. Could print the ballot to save some money and time, so something else we could consider. Laura, I will let you talk about revenue and yield considerations.
So in the conversation with the finance committee and the board that we've had since the previous vote, I've adjusted a little bit of the Medicaid revenue that we have in a reserve to help offset taxes for taxpayers. Also, I've adjusted the interest revenue that we receive on our short-term borrowing for our tax anticipation note.
I think somebody's not muted.
Oh. In regards to the yield, that number, as we know, has fluctuated a lot this year. In the first proposal of the budget that we put out, we were using a yield of 9,770. I'm sorry, in the last one, we were using 9,775. That's what was recommended. A couple weeks ago, we were told that maybe we should be using the 9,846. Last week, we were told we should be using 10,005 in the most recent version of the bills, and that was when the finance committee was having their conversations. But now, in the yield bill that we talked about, that is at 9,843. Julie already talked about the fact that the governor might veto that, and we have no idea what would come after that.
Or it may not.
Or it may not.
Do you know why it dropped from 10 to 9? Is that just internal decisions that?
I'm not sure because the surplus amount that they're using to offset didn't change, so and spending came down with the budget collections that they were doing at that, so I'm not sure why.
It seems contradictory that the two
They
factors
increased a
that
couple
would
of the
say
other taxes too, so I'm not sure.
get better.
Yeah, I read that the Senate wanted money, more money put in to assist people that are income sensitive and wanted that yield reduced. And I think
part
that's
of the 13%.
Yes, and I think that was where that was what I read. How true that is.
So a compromise there.
Yeah, so it was like a compromise. That was my understanding.
So, so the finance committee looked at a range of different scenarios before coming to one to bring to the board. These are just the broad overall budgets, proposed cuts, and again, it's hard with the yield change, but that would have been like increased potentially after CLA on the right-hand column. So we had 6 different drafts that we worked through with a low of 553,000 as a reduction and a high of almost over $1 million. We landed somewhere in the middle. I think the one on the next slide is going to be 835,000 as a number to cut, and then we kind of break down where that would come from. I think one of the big considerations that myself, Pierrette, and Elaine kind of went over is, at the time of the meeting, the proposed difference increase after the CLA, as you change the numbers, is, if you can see between between 870,000 and potentially 911,000, your increase is the same after the CLA, and that variance is marginal. So you have between 0.4 cents and 0.14 cents, and it's the same thing. So, you know, the question is what are we reducing for potentially having a reduction? So a lot of the difference wasn't there. So we went back and forth, we discussed it, and we'll come up with what we proposed as full cuts. So the proposal is to potentially have $835,000 of additional budget reduction, totaling from our original budget. That would be over $1,870,000 from our original proposal. That's where we're down.
From our March vote.
Our March vote, correct. So here is itemized breakdown of actually where it's coming from. So as was discussed in the facilities committee meeting, so the capital project Highgate roof cannot be done. So that right there was a decrease of $728,000. We had a decrease to the principal's office of $10,000. We had a special ed clerical position that we were considering removing at 49, and the one FT Swanton. What's the FT?
Full-time equivalency.
Yeah.
Yep. We had district office or business office reductions. So we had 30,000 in HR and financial staff. We had 75,000 in interest expense reduction and 148,000 in HRA benefit expense, and that's the health reimbursement expense.
Can we explain that a little bit more? Like, I know one of the questions was about the HRA, so that reduction is due to Bonnie and Laura looking at the percentage of employees who take advantage of or meet 100%, right, of their.
They have access to 100%.
Right.
Typically, we only spend about 63, sometimes up to 72 this year. But
so this is adjusting it. So we're saving that money by adjusting our expectation of the percentage of employees who are going to hit that 100%.
Yes.
Should we explain a little more what the HRA is? Is everybody know
what
what it is?
I was just going to run through them all, and then I think as questions we can kind of, because I think there's going to be quite a few. And one thing I wanted to add, if you look at this, so if you look at principal's office that came up earlier, right, it's a decrease, but it shows what budget item. It was actually salary, $10,000, right? So that question came up earlier. If it's under principal's office, is it a graduation expense? No, we're actually talking that was a salary position coming out of that office, correct?
It's a savings.
It's a savings, right? So, but we're decreasing the budget by that amount. Under student management, the actual budget item would be $100,000 to one FTE MVU quasi-administrator position.
Mm-hmm.
So between the salary and the benefits, that's about $100,000 reduction. Plan operations, which is MVSD custodian, that's a $60,000 reduction, and then general instruction, which is one MVSD teacher position, that was $72,000 plus $30,000 benefits. And then there was some necessary increases that we put back in. So we put back into the capital line $128,000 for repair and maintenance for the recommendation of the facilities committee. Put back 250,000 back into special education and student services, which I will let Julie expand on later, and why we're supporting that. And then we put back into instructional salaries and benefits $100,000. So that was an overall reduction of $835,000. And yeah, this is the point where.
Can you talk a little bit more about the administrator position?
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to personally identify anybody.
No, I know.
But somebody who will be leaving next year,
Okay.
and we're not replacing the position,
Okay.
and that's a decision that we've spent the year talking about and working through.
No, I don't need to just,
Yeah,
it's not a case that somebody's,
and sometimes things
hasn't
are,
been notified, yeah, okay.
yes.
I can't see.
Siobhan.
Yes, Siobhan?
Before.
Yes, so sorry,
Oh, sorry.
motorcycle went by right then. I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly, Rennick. You had brought up that the $10,000 decrease. It probably went to my question earlier, and it does kind of specifically. If you were to, I just want to be clear what you're saying is if you're going to lower that budget, that $10,000, it's coming out of salaries and not graduation expenses.
Yeah, so that's what we were saying earlier, when we were sort of asking just general terms in the survey, sort of what broad categories, but like when we actually looked at where to take the money from, we were looking more specifically. So that principal office reduction is actually coming out of a salary position out of Swanton, so you are correct there.
Well, I appreciate it. Is that not taking away money that's already been listed as a salary, or is it just not increasing like at a, there's always inflation each year, normally you do some sort of increase. Is this just a lack of increasing?
No, this
or is it
a-
actually decreasing what's already been agreed upon within a salary?
This is a reduction.
It's, yes, someone is leaving and the person coming in there's a savings in that salary line.
Oh, okay. All right. I appreciate you guys clearing that up.
Sure. So we'll probably come back to this one, but.
Before you leave this, what did that, there was a total at one time, how much did that right there cut it? Not doing the facilities cut, but these things here, what was the total?
Without the facilities?
Yeah. Because I think facilities is a whole different thing, and I know we went around and around, and I think Peter had the suggestion we cut 650 and leave 100 in, 1,000.
So that is reflected there, Doug. So
Okay, so-
the 728 was what facility recommended, but yours and Peter's recommendation was to take 128 and put that back into
Right,
maintenance.
yeah, that was part
So
of our
that-
facilities.
So that's technically a 650
So
reduction.
this, as I say, I thought one time I saw a bottom line, but must be I was reading.
It's on the side,
Yeah,
835.
No, just these things, if you don't deal with the 650 and the 128 and all those.
I think he's talking about the net.
Just the cuts.
I think he's talking about the net.
Okay, yeah, so you'd have to,
Hold on.
Because I've already been asked that question, and I'm sure I'll be asked again. And some of you probably will too.
Sorry. My phone is not going right. $1.317.
How much?
1.3 million, 17.
no.
Whoops.
It's without.
1.3 million?
Oh, without the capital? So take out the 700. You do not want the 728 and you don't want any of the increases added back in?
No, he's just asking what is the total
I'm just
amount.
asking these cuts right
Yeah,
here, if you
so-
total them,
Principal, special ed, clerical.
Right,
right.
without the capital or
Without
with
the
the
capital.
capital?
without the capital.
Okay, that's, so it's 1.3 minus 728.
It can't be 1.3 million.
No,
Minus 728.
Minus the 728. I didn't know you wanted me to take out the,
So it's roughly about, $650 done.
I'm completely confused now. Because you're telling me that we've cut 1.3 million?
No.
No.
No, we added some of the some of the savings we've reinvested as well, as was
Right, I
in
understand.
that, you know, so some students have
Yeah.
out-of-district placements, so we put some money back into special education. So we've got a couple of adds in this scenario.
this might help.
But I guess maybe I should clarify between
Right.
budget 2 and budget 3. Because I think I'm hearing when we go over 1 million, we must have taken into consideration from the original budget.
Oh,
So
that was $1.8
the
million.
1.875 would be this round of budget cuts plus the last round of budget cuts. This round proposal is $835,000 from our last budget. Alright, so there's between the facilities and the additional, the one thing we did is we took about 300 of it and we reinvested it back into some student services into the budget. Because, and Julie can speak
Because
to.
when I did this at home, based on the minutes, it looked like if you ignored the facilities cuts, which remember got us in trouble with some people before because they said you did cut, you just delayed. It looks like you cut about $185,000.
No, more than that.
I'll show you in a second, Dawn, I think this might help you, I just want to.
I just want to be informed.
About-
Yeah, I think this will help you. This, oops, sharing my screen, yeah, make it bigger.
It's 589.
Yeah.
354. So we cut on top of the roof project,
Yeah.
some of which we reinvested.
Right,
We cut positions and other services over $539,000. Moved the screen away so I
Oh, right there.
I should put it up there. 589,354.
589. So if I'm a guy on the street that doesn't follow this, is not on the school board, if I add 589 and 650, that's what I've cut. Is that true?
Well, we also added back in $250,000 for special education for a couple of students, and just over $100,000 for some salary movement that we know is going to happen, that we found out about after.
So those are ads.
Those are ads. So we took some of the savings from the roof project, put some into maintenance, and put some into special ed and student services. And then we cut $589,000 out of those other areas. General administration is like $250,000 worth of cuts, and so forth. So the total, the net is the 830.
So it's the add back that's confusing,
Correct.
because, go ahead.
I'm not sure if that's helpful for you, or anyone really, I guess.
Yeah, that is very helpful,
Okay.
because the numbers didn't work without knowing you was add back.
The add back really was because and I don't want to speak for finance, but the add back was, again, we had a couple of students move into special ed, and we had some column movement that we hadn't accounted for in the original budget. And the difference between $835,000 in cut and just over $1 million in cut made really no difference on the tax rate. That was the gist of the conversation.
So one of the things that we looked at was, one, again, what is the bottom line in terms of what does it do to the tax rate, and there was a marginal, if any, difference. The other thing too, and this was heard loud and clear from our last budget that didn't pass, was that just an amount, because if it just came from one place, as it came from the parking lot project that we couldn't do, even though that was large numbers, $1 million, a lot of people were not satisfied that we weren't looking at the budget and going line by line and seeing where and what particular places could we make cuts. So we did that. We tried to look in areas where we could make savings and make reductions. And because we were in the unfortunate position that we couldn't do the Highgate roof, we were also saying, well, we still have to keep in mind, we still have to support student services and things like that, so we put some of that back into there. So that overall brings our overall reduction at 835, but for anyone interested in like where are we taking that money from, we're taking it from some of the places that have been indicated that they would like to see some of the cuts.
I think it's gonna be really important, whatever number we come up with here tonight, that in doing this, we explain to people the add backs, because we do have some people understand math. And I was a math teacher, and when I went through the numbers, they did not work. They didn't work. But as soon as you told me, well, we added 100, I knew the 128, but I didn't know the 250. That makes quite a difference. Because otherwise, people are gonna say, your numbers don't add up, because it didn't.
And Julie, can you explain that special education piece, special ed services
Right.
that we're dealing with?
Well, for example, we set the budget for special ed based on an estimate of services that will be needed in October. But students don't just stay static, right? So their needs change, students move in. So just recently, we've had a change in need of students. We've had some contracts that are over $100,000 apiece that we've had to sign. So those were, we always estimate, we try and have a little wiggle room, but that wiggle room sort of disappeared with some increasing students' needs. So given the fact that we were cutting that roof project, it made sense to invest some in special ed where we knew we had an increased need.
Peter has a question.
So yeah, you got the slide up there now. So I noticed under plant operations that we're cutting a custodian. This must have came up after our facilities meeting because we did not, I don't remember discussing that. And I know Jason's here. I've always been under the impression we have a hard time filling those roles, so it really concerns me that we're going to cut one, seeing that we've already done a lot of cuts from facilities. So just like some more understanding on that.
This was one of the new ones, so there were 2 new ones in the budget, just to clarify that piece.
So this is a position that's not currently filled?
Right.
Correct, it was an added
This
position.
would be the shared MVSD position that we were trying to create to cover, like you're saying, some of those illnesses and long-term illnesses.
It's a folder position. There were 2 positions and we just kept one of the 2.
Right.
So there's still one added position.
I think in talking to you that this was the one that would be preferred if one had to.
Just
What if
it-
any, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just as the general instruction, the teaching position, we have a few positions that were added to the budget, and we are willing to cut one of them, and we'll work with administration to determine at the end which one makes the most sense to cut. But it's not a current position that's filled.
So what's in the 911,000 reduction that hasn't been addressed there? What are the additional things we would have to give up to get to the 911?
Less
was draft
increases
2D.
back, really.
What's that?
Less ed backs.
Less
Oh,
increases.
the other scenario?
Yes.
Yeah. So in one, we could say we only, even though we have potentially 2 special ed situations to deal with, we could just add less money back to that.
What would we have done if the last budget passed? Because we didn't have that budgeted for special ed.
You have to find it, make it up somewhere else, if the placements didn't change, but.
That's where, when we experience savings in one area of the budget and we have greater expenses in others, that's where we manage that.
So you're saying one way or another, we're gonna spend that money?
As it stands right now, we've had
Hopefully,
a few new contracts come in, as Julie said, in the last couple of weeks, and they were fairly high cost, so yes.
So yes, to answer Don's question, it wasn't additional cuts, it was about how much money we would be adding back in, and what the finance committee was recommending, so that we were not cutting it quite as close.
You know, I commend you for the work you did. As I went through the minutes, I was hoping we would be closer to 900,000 There are two variables. I'm sure you all understand it, okay? One of them is money, the budget, and tax rate. The other one is the people out there that think maybe we are overstaffed or we pay too much or whatever. I'm not saying I agree with them, but I think to come back with a budget where we're telling them we're cutting $650,000 because we couldn't get the Highgate roof done in time, and this is what we're cutting in total, isn't gonna pass muster. I think we're still gonna, I'm talking in Swanton. I know nothing about Franklin. I know a little bit about Highgate because I'm probably there. I'll talk to some people. So, you know, the finance committee worked hard. I'm sure you weighed all the variables. But that second variable to me is to people talk to me is important. And I think the perception is going to be, because people don't understand that this week 2 kids moved in and it's gonna cost money. They're looking pretty much at just raw numbers, that we're not gonna convince those people to vote for this budget. It's kind of like, here we go again.
But are we gonna convince them? If you look at the end results and we look at the tax rates, the difference between what is proposed and the max, it's a penny. So like,
I don't think they're looking at the tax rate.
You don't think they're looking at their tax rate?
Everybody looks at their taxes, of course, but tax rate, no.
But if we look at everything that we have heard from all of these surveys that have gone out, people want to provide a high quality education. They want to support the students. They're supportive of cutting, for lack of a better word, what they deem as fluff or excess. And I feel like we have done that without having to say, okay, well, Swanton, you're down a teacher, a filled position teacher, or MVU, sorry, we're gonna cut somebody who's already there. I think that if we continue to cut in areas that the Finance Committee has not identified as being smart, we put the district in a dangerous situation, especially with adjustments to like the special education and the HRA adjustments, because that money, if all of the employees go to 100% of their health benefits, we are legally able, like required to pay this. So we have to be able to have a long-term solution, and I don't think nickel and diming is the way to get there. I think that it's been hashed through a lot, and for one, I think this is the best that we can do, that we should do, without having unintended consequences that are going to have potentially devastating effects on our communities.
See, I would agree on most of what you said. I think the wild card here, which hopefully is the $250,000 on special ed. If those 2 students moved in next week, or as Peter said, they moved in after we passed the budget, we'd have to find a way to do it.
Right.
All right? So if that 250 had not put back in, then I think we're looking at a very fair and reasonable number. So that's the wild card. And hopefully we can explain it and people understand it. And anybody who's been in the school business or on school board knows probably that changes every month, right? Especially
every day, but it's definitely
so
trending up.
The timing is just the perfect storm, that between budget 2 and 3, we picked up another $250,000 expense. If we had not had that tonight, and we said we didn't add that back in, then I think we're looking at a number that probably would get people's attention. But, you know, we're gonna go with what we do, and
Can I say something, Don?
Sure.
So one of the things that I looked at closely and is, I think we should go back to the scenario where it shows the tax rates of all the different cuts. And, you know, we looked at, because I went in there thinking that we needed to cut, you know, maybe close to, like, in the area that what you're suggesting. And then when I saw the tax rate, there was no difference. And I said, well, why would, to me, the net tax rate to your CLA is what's important. It isn't how much how much you cut, is what is that tax rate, because that's what people pay. And so to say, well, we'll cut a $900,000 number, but the tax rate remains the same, what have we accomplished, and what benefit is that to individuals who are paying property tax if their property tax rate doesn't go down? There's no benefit. So that's what I looked at and I said, my gosh, there's no difference. Why would we go there?
No,
And that's why.
I hear you and I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I think back when we were meeting finance and facilities, the superintendent's office came to us with a number of possible cuts. And I think I was one of the first one to say, you don't want to cut all of that. Probably don't even want to cut more than half, even, maybe not even half. No, I think, as I say, having done a little bit of work on it, thanks to getting the minutes from Bonnie, I was aware of the 128 because Peter and I think, promoted that. I was not aware that it was $250,000 in special ed. And to me, that's pretty significant. Without that, we would have been looking pretty good. But we'll go with it. Hopefully, we don't have to go a fourth time.
When you say things like that, Don, though, like well, we'll just hope for the best, Hail Mary, and hope we don't have to go for number 4. I mean, things like that doesn't really exude confidence, and you're sort of undermining.
Well, I don't plan to undermine. I'm trying to be realistic.
Okay.
So I will add this. I do understand the part that I was talking about, and it's actually a concern of mine, is that how do we find that area where we can garner enough community support and not start to really harm the programming that we're offering, and explaining that. Some of the questions that were asked tonight, like, what are we, supervisory union? Like, we're not, and these are things that some people believe. That's not the hill I would die on. If I knew that 200,000 out of this budget would pass it, then I would say it. I would say that's what we should go with. We had, during the finance committee, we had a community member who sat in for the whole meeting. And
Community members for what town?
they were from Franklin. And they sat in actually during the meeting. And their feedback during the meeting was, I've actually supported your budget twice, and I'm worried that if you keep cutting, you're gonna lose my support. And it's a real thing. So one of the biggest things that we heard between the two budgets that we proposed was, it isn't just a number, it's where it's coming from. It's where it's coming from. And we also hear, I have no problem supporting student services, but I don't want to support this particular office. So that was the balance that we were trying to do. But I mean, I agree. I mean, if I had a crystal ball and if we just had to feel the pain and take that additional student services out.
You answered my question.
Yeah.
As I say, the thing that I didn't have was the $250,000.
So, I mean, and again, I'm not, if the full board said take it all out right now because that's what they feel will pass the budget, then I mean, we have the ability to do that right now. I mean, so I would hope that we can discuss it to the point that at least we come to a consensus, because I don't know all the answers. I mean, I think we all are trying to manage providing as much support as needed to students and to the teachers who are doing the job, while trying to listen to the community and making specific cuts where it's been reflected that they would like it from, and adhering to those who have supported the budget and want us to keep offering services for students and growing. So it's kind of my thought. I'm open to everyone to please give their input. So whatever we recommend, we can hopefully be on the same page. It would not be a hard thing to change that number to reduce money that we put back into repair and maintenance, into special education, or into the salary benefits. So that's where we could take all of those out. That's what the full board felt they wanted to do.
But it's not like that money goes away. We still need that $250,000. So it's just, it's like make-believe. Oh, we'll take it off so you don't see it here, but we still have to spend it because we have these kids that need these services that we are legally required to provide. So I think that is not very transparent, and I would not support taking that off.
I think it's all in how you spin it at the information meeting. As I said, at finance, if you start with, since our last budget, we have acquired these new students. We've had increased expenses, so we've added the $250 back in. Therefore, we then did all these cuts. Because that's what we looked at, what we were cutting was, we now have this new expense we didn't have before. So it's not like we didn't look at it. And I agree, Dawn, if you look at it this way, it does have a bad spin. You can say the same thing backwards and say, this is what happened, this is what we looked at. I think it has a different spin on it.
But I think, Don, and again, I'm gonna go back to the tax rate. What I looked at is I saw, and if you could go back to that tax rate page again, Laura, I'm sorry. And what I saw was draft 2C, which has $870,000 cut. And then there's draft 2F, which is $796,000 cut, which is actually less than what we're cutting. And if you look at the tax rate, so you're cutting it's almost like $100,000 difference, and there's no difference in the tax rate. And that's what I said, gee, you know.
I mean,
and
that's
so,
another way of looking at it.
Yeah, and so that's why.
It's one of those situations where there is no right answer.
Right. And I hear you, myself, I certainly hear all of you here, but I mean, on the add back, I wouldn't mind if we added back just 2 out of the 3 things. I think adding 3 things back, it just kind of, I don't know if it doesn't look as...
loses its, like...
Yes.
I don't think you can.
And I wouldn't mind if we, you know, if people wanted to do that, maybe one of those, well, I definitely wouldn't do it with the maintenance, obviously.
You know, the
one of
thing
the other
is,
two.
the maintenance, and Peter knows spent a lot of time on that because I've talked to him, but you know, the maintenance thing with the $750 on the roof, immediately we felt, you can't do that because you're probably going to patch the roof for $100,000.
Yeah, no,
so all the maintenance things
that.
went back in.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just protecting us for something's probably going to happen. Thank God the roof didn't leak this week, and I gave.
Right.
Because we've been looking at putting more in. No, thank you, Peter. No, as I say, I got the answers that I wanted because I'm sure before the week's out, I'm going to be contacted by some people in Swanton. Not a lot of people. I think they talked to a lot of people. No, they didn't. Some of them are families of 20. But anyway, I've had my say and I've asked the questions. As I say, the thing that I didn't have was a $250,000 add back. Otherwise, I thought you guys did a great job.
Or can you go back to that one with all the cuts and the addition? Yeah. So, just from a facilities perspective, so we cut that roof. We didn't cut that roof because we wanted to. We cut that roof because it wasn't gonna happen because we didn't have an approved budget. So we couldn't sign a contract. We physically can't get that roof done. So that was a cut that we really didn't want to make, and we wouldn't have made it if we could have still gotten it under. So I think we're kind of looking at that as, you know, we needed these other cuts as well, right? Because we know we added some things back in by necessity, which we've talked about. To me, I'm looking at it as that's where some of that roof is going, back into that, because we had no choice. We had to, we couldn't do the project. These other cuts are real, you know, we're making real cuts in other areas, and we, you know, facilities took a real hit, and it's unfortunate. And again, those projects are still out there. In future years, we are going to have to address them. But I think looking at this budget, I think we've done, you know, I agree with what Barrett's saying. I think it looks, it's a tough sell when you got 3 different things you're adding money to. But definitely plant operations. like Don said, we made that choice because we know that roof is an issue and we're gonna have to spend some money on it if it has more problems. And to me, it's wasted money because the roof needs an overhaul and whatever we put into it is gonna get ripped off and redone. So it's unfortunate, but that's where we're at. Hopefully we can get this, hopefully people will see this and we can get this budget passed and we can move on. And I guess that's my 2 cents.
One question, Laura, how are we looking right now with, I don't wanna call it carryover, but I can't think of a better word.
Surplus.
Huh?
Anticipated surplus.
Yeah.
We're, I think we're gonna have a conversation about that after, but we're still at the 1.9. Most of that is because of additional revenue we've received for extraordinary costs.
So has there been any dialogue in finance about looking at that and seeing if that would help us?
Finance and facilities, I believe. So we came with a recommendation tonight. I think you've been involved in some of those conversations in facilities, I believe.
Facilities I have, yes.
What is quasi-administrator?
Someone who, it's not technically administrator, but it's a position that people consider administrative. But it comes under student management. And I don't want to say more because it's an individual.
Okay, I also just want to throw my personal input as a parent of a student who went through school with special ed. For anybody who is not aware of the needs of special education, besides the fact that it's a required law to provide it, I suggest they, learn some more about it and the importance of supporting the special ed services. And that's all on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan.
Siobhan, I'm just going to give you something as somebody who understands that, as if this version of a budget is adopted by the board and we put that forward, that's a good point to make to people that these are required services that we have to provide. So just a little feedback on that note.
Absolutely. I did ask one other question in the chat. I was curious about funding for the Connect program that is held at the church on Canada Street in Swanton.
Sure.
Does that come out of, student support? I had it written down in the chat.
It comes out of instructional programs.
Come out of the department that is student support, instructional programs, or special education?
Instructional programs.
And then the rent that we pay in the building comes out of facilities.
Comes out of facilities. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Go to the yield slide. All right, so draft 3 with the yield of $9,893 on an $835,000 reduction would bring our budget to a total of $48,909,437. The percentage increase in spending is 13%. Can you just clarify? What do you mean 13%?
The percent increase to education spending, so our expenditures, the expenditure budget minus the revenues, that's your ed spending, the increase is 13%.
We'd have an equalized tax rate of $1.19.8. We'd have a percentage decreased tax rate of 3.42%, variance from FY24 of 0.04 cents, and then the increase after CLA, this is the range, right? 6.3 or 13 cents for the respective towns. So that's what we'd be looking at for an impact of the new yield. Keep in mind, however, we don't know if that will pass or get vetoed and how that could change. But that's what we'd be projecting.
Can you take in the order of so the 6 applies to what town, 13 to what town, 16 to what town?
6 is Highgate, correct?
I think it's Heidi, Franklin, Swanton.
Highgate, Franklin, Swanton.
Well, isn't Franklin the Highgate?
Wait, hold on.
16.
The other way around.
The other way around.
Swanton.
I can tell you exactly what they are, so just.
Let's not, I won't speculate.
Right here, you can see. Oh, you guess you can't see. I can see. You can't see. It's Franklin would be 16.3 cents. Highgate would be 6.3 cents, and Swanton would be 13.1 cents.
Thank you.
I think it would be important to show the decrease in tax rate, like when we send out information on the flyer. Because I think that that's really a substantial decrease in the tax rate.
The decrease between the first, second, and final, or just, I guess that.
I don't know, I guess I would love to go from the first to the final myself,
Yeah.
because that would make sense that people should see how much we've really decreased it since town meeting day.
It's 4 cents from this current year.
Yeah, so,
After the CLA is what I think is most important, because that is what people are actually paying, and there's quite a huge decrease there.
I would, and that's a conversation for after, but also how we discuss it, because I do feel like every member of the board is taken seriously. How can we contribute to lowering taxes for members of the district? And I think this is a significant reduction for what we're still trying to provide to students. So, and this is the last slide. Yeah. So there you go.
Well, you gave out some figures a couple minutes ago. That was the rate, including the CLA.
That was the difference in the tax rate after the CLA, yeah.
Is that somewhere in the shared drive?
I can put it in the shared drive,
I-
just on my tax rate page. So the last column shows the increase after the CLA, 6 cents, 13 cents, and 16 cents.
Okay, increase after CLA, but which town?
6 is Highgate, 13 is Swanton, and 16 is Franklin.
Okay, so Highgate has the lowest.
Yes, it does.
That's a surprise. And Franklin has the highest.
The drop in CLA was different from town to town.
And do you know if they've come up with a number yet? I've been trying to find it and then I got busy, but on non-residential, I know they're gonna now tax some other short-term places, but,
Yeah, they're gonna do the tax on the short-term rentals like Airbnbs. I can send it to you, Dawn. I didn't keep that number in my head. I was
it's not
paying
that
attention
important. I
to
was
the
just
deal.
asked that question and I
Yeah.
couldn't find it and I
Yeah,
said,
it's in the bill.
It is in the bill, yes, but it's estimates at this point if the governor does,
okay.
makes a decision.
Okay. Is there any
Just in there, again,
questions or
it's Swanton,
discussion on
we
it?
have quite a few people who have non-residential property.
Any other questions or comments or further discussion?
All right. Madam Chair.
Did I hear my name? I don't know if you guys are asking.
Oh, no, we were.
I do have one last question for last year's budget. Trying to find that number right now. It was budget draft 5, fiscal year 24, 44,969,910 is
44,983,567.
82,567. Okay, so that would be an overall increase now to
3.9.
what? I did the numbers over here.
$3,925,870.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'd like to propose, budget for adoption, whatever, get there. Like to make the motion to adopt the budget of 800 and, sorry, can you bring it back up for me?
835.
No, for the
Are you
total.
talking about the budget?
Yep.
Budget.
48,909,437, but yes, I will bring it back up.
You wanted
I was gonna say, can you talk slower?
Sorry.
You just said that you wanted to adopt the budget for the
No.
835.
No.
Well, you said you wanted to, so what you want us to do is to adopt the budget for the 48,909,437. Or I'll make
There
a
we go.
motion to,
Alright, I would like to make a motion to adopt, current budget to be proposed at $48,909,437.
I'll second.
okay, Reddick's the first, Megan's the second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Or do we need the, budget warning?
We do, I'm gonna have to take a minute to fill it out. Somebody wants to read it with that number. Oh, and then you need a date of an informational meeting.
So,
You can put it up on the screen also.
oh, yeah, I'm gonna be doing this.
So it's,
Right?
Yeah.
And,
I didn't have time to go to the other printer today.
So I have a question. You
Okay.
said that we could do it on, sorry, I had the date pulled up of June 13th. That's a Thursday, and I think everybody's adjusted to voting on a Tuesday. I would hope.
It's the earliest day, so I just, yeah.
Okay, just saying that usually town voting is always on a Tuesday for everybody.
Maybe Tuesday's a bad day.
I'd like to keep it on a Tuesday just because that's when people are used to voting.
I agree with Peter, and the thing is, and I hope, I think I'm gonna carry a little tape recorder around because credibility is a big thing, and sometimes when you change things like to Tuesday or to a Thursday,
Right.
even though you had no evil intentions, some people are gonna say, yeah, we figured that Thursday, some people won't be able to vote, they vote on Tuesday. We know that's not true. It's the same way with your public information meetings, with your school board meetings, start switching around, and people start questioning.
Well, here's a question to you, Don. I mean, I agree with that. What about the informational though? Is it working on the Mondays before?
I don't think the information meeting's as big a deal, but I do think consistency is important, particularly to older people. But certainly the voting date, that's the key. You start fooling around with that, I think it's bad.
so the first Tuesday after the 13th would be June 18th, Tuesday, June 18th.
Yeah, I got that, so then the informational meeting cannot be any more than 10 days.
I would advocate against having it the day before. I don't think that went over well, and it doesn't give people enough time to process and
Right.
hopefully help us disseminate clarified questions or clarified answers to the questions.
Just have to be careful of sixth grade graduation, high school graduation.
And
later
eighth grade
this week.
graduation. Yep.
Eighth grade, yep.
When
All that week.
when are those? Do we have the
They're all
dates?
High school's Friday.
The 14th.
Middle school's the 12th.
Middle school's the 12th, I believe, is that
Yep.
right?
And then elementary is,
Franklin's on the 11th, I asked Joyce.
okay.
Yeah.
And usually Yeshua has his on a Thursday, right?
They try and do them that week, so it would be
Yeah.
that week.
So that whole entire week.
So could we do the Monday, the 10th? That's 8 days.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be anything.
Yeah, we can do that.
Do we wanna move our board meeting on I assume we have a board meeting on the 18th?
We had a board meeting, this is because we want to stay away from graduation week, we have board meetings on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays. So we would be meeting on the 4th and the 18th. So, yippee.
So if we do the voting on the 18th, that would be ideal. So I think that's why Peter said,
Right.
was asking to move it to what, the 25th? The week
Yeah.
after.
That's fine.
Send it to Derek, Dan can print anything in this building. Dan and Chris. Yes, I won't be here on the 25th, but. Yeah. And Laura won't be here for the vote, so we'll have to figure that out. But yes, I think Peter will reschedule that board meeting.
It doesn't have to be the following week, it could be
So
another day that week.
we will get, what, are people agreeing to the 10th for the budget information meeting?
Is that a Monday night or Tuesday?
It's a Monday night.
Yeah,
I think that's
It's not gonna conflict with any graduations.
If you want to avoid the graduations, it's probably the only night.
Yeah,
How many days before can we do it?
No more than 10.
Okay.
no more than 10, so
Yep,
we're
that
we're
works.
okay.
Yeah.
You can't do it that way, you can just go to control P and enlarge it.
You know, you can bring cookies in.
She'll be on the way.
I think it helps with Franklin.
Julie, we could even,
Yes.
you could even move we don't have to necessarily have the reschedule the board meeting to the following week after voting, maybe we could do it right after. Like, next thing.
Oh, we could do it Wednesday, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the argument against having it on the 18th though? Like we still have business to.
Because I want to be there and count votes.
Oh. Good enough.
Peter's with JP, right?
Yeah, Chief Justice.
Are we good with those days? Because Dan's gonna print it, what do you think?
So June 10th for the informational meeting and Tuesday, June 18th for the vote itself? Yeah. Okay.
And that way we'll know the results. We wait a day or something. I'd like to know the results.
I'm just gonna sit here.
All right, so do you want me to read the warning?
Yes, please.
Okay. Warning for the special meeting in Missisquoi Valley School District. The legal voters of the Missisquoi Valley School District, consisting of the towns of Franklin, Highgate, and Swanton, are hereby notified and warned to meet to transact the following business by Australian ballot in their respective polling places, hereinafter named for each of the above referenced towns, on Tuesday, June 18th, at the polling places and times hereinafter listed.
Does yours say Tuesday?
No, I took Tuesday out. I only added Thursday because it was going to be a change of the week.
Okay,
We never put the day of the week in there.
okay.
All right.
I can put it in, but that was the only reason I put Thursday.
I was just trying not to say Thursday.
are going to-
No, we're
June
doing
18th.
Tuesday.
Article 1, shall the voters of the Missisquoi Valley School District approve the school directors to expend $48,909,437, which is the amount the school directors have determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. Article 2, shall the voters of the Missisquoi Valley School District authorize the Board of Directors to borrow money to pay the current expenditures in anticipation of taxes pursuant to Title 16 VSA Section 5629. Said persons and voters warned are further notified that voter qualification, registration, absentee voting, and voter procedures shall be in accordance with Chapter 43 and 51 of Title 17 VSA. The legal voters of the school district are further notified that an informational meeting will be held in person at Missisquoi Valley Union High School Library and electronically via Zoom on June 10th at 7 p.m. for the purpose of explaining the budget items to the voters. The link to access this virtual meeting will be posted on the MVSD website, mvsdschools.org, and MVSD social media prior to the meeting. Polling places and times: in Franklin, Franklin Town Hall, 5336 Main Street, Franklin, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. In Highgate, Highgate Sports Arena, 243 Gore Road, Highgate Center, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Swanton, Swanton Village Municipal Complex, First and Elm Streets, Swanton, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Julie, did you want to put Monday on June 10th because it's different, or you just want to use the June 10th?
It was Monday last week.
It's usually a Monday, yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, usually it's a Monday, the informational meeting, so, I mean, happy to.
Okay.
So you need a motion to adopt the warning as read.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Elaine. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Just let the towns know.
Next agenda item, budget information promotion discussion.
Well, we have oh, wait a minute. We're not there yet. I'm jumping.
I was like, what?
I'm jumping ahead, I apologize.
Usually that's me that does that.
And JR was online, he's jumped off.
So I guess that would be discussing, do we wanna do flyers, how do we wanna promote this, how do we wanna do, ballots?
Right, one of the questions from the Highgate town clerk was, do we want to send a ballot to everyone? We would need agreement from all three towns. Last time, Swanton didn't respond to us when we asked, and we didn't ask further because Highgate had already said no. And she was communicating with Laura that Highgate would do it. The question really becomes, is that helpful or not? We're not.
Also, the timing has
And
to
the
work out.
timing has to
The
work
select
out.
boards have to meet, and then we have to be able to.
At this point, anyone who has requested an absentee ballot in the past will receive one automatically. And
Requested it in what time frame? Like requested it for the last vote or requested it a year ago? How
No,
does?
last vote.
The last vote, okay.
Since town meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
since
town
town
meeting,
meeting.
Okay.
Because once your budget's voted
It all
down, then
goes
it's
back to
automatic
town meeting.
that you get. Well, if you're looking for input, I think there are voters that are going to feel like they're spending money that we don't have, extra postage. I also think I have heard feedback when it was done during the pandemic, which I think when it was done during the pandemic, obviously there was good cause and good reason to do that because we really didn't want a lot of people showing up at the polls and those kinds of things. But some of the feedback I had heard was people complained not only about the expense, but they complained that, well, my house got 5 ballots and there were only 3 people in that house. I think there's fraud going on. That's the kind of thing that's kind of like, that gets out there. And I worry about that. And of course, the reason they got 5 is there at one time there was 5 people in that house and 2 never changed their address or something. That is the reason, but that isn't what's being portrayed. And I think that may cause more negative, I guess, atmosphere than not. That's how I feel. I'm concerned about that.
And I know a lot of people last time when they did it during COVID forgot to even hand them in.
Well, that and also they have, if they want to go vote that day, they have to bring it with them to go vote. And so some people want to go vote and they want to go to the polls and they have to bring that with them. They can't find them.
Yep.
Right, to prove that they do already vote.
Yep.
Right. They can't, some of them, that was some of the complaints. I don't know, I think it's complicated. And I'm not sure I want, I want that complication. I want this budget to pass.
So we're talking about mailing ballots to people?
To everybody that's a registered
Right.
voter.
Didn't we already try that? And we have to have each town agree to it?
Yeah.
Can't have one town?
Yeah, when-
It didn't,
The only reason I even brought it up was when I went to the town clerk's office, Wendy had said that she thought
I
that
know.
Highgate would, yeah.
Highgate was one that said no.
She said and that's what I told her, and she said, oh, but I think this time they might allow it, so.
Well, I
Just wanted to make sure you had the information.
think it's too much of an uphill battle at this point.
I think the timing could definitely be a concern too.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
I'd
it all
worry
works
about
out.
the timing.
Yeah.
Also, I would worry about, just the fact that we'd be doing something different.
I would consider entertaining it if they called us and said, yeah, they'd all love to do it, but I don't think you'd get them all to agree.
I also think there'd probably be concerns from the public.
Yeah.
And that.
I didn't ask for that.
Or why are they doing ballots now?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't wanna open that can of worms.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you. Exactly.
Alright, so we're all in pretty much consensus of in-person voting, of course, the laws.
People
We
can
did get
request
absentees
an
before.
absentee
Yeah.
ballot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No one has to,
But I thought I heard earlier
I'll pass that back around.
somebody say that if you had it mailed to you before, it'll automatically get mailed to you again?
Yeah, if you were,
Oh, I
if you
didn't know
applied
that.
for an absentee for town meeting day, then
So
it stays that way.
everyone who's already had an absentee ballot will automatically get an absentee ballot.
Okay. Didn't know
Actually, did the other
So I know that, just talking about budget promotion, I know that one of the conversations that Dawn and Megan and Stephanie were emailing about doing a Saturday meeting similar to the one that we had in Franklin. Here's Stephanie for your signature. And, you still willing to do that? And it would make sense to do it on a Saturday closer to the vote, obviously.
Yep.
So probably maybe the 11th or the 4th. I haven't even looked at my calendar, but I know we all kind of all agreed we wanted to do it, but we didn't want to do it now.
June 8th,
Right.
or first?
The
Yeah, I
first
think
or
it
the
should be in
eighth.
June.
Right. Well, I will work with the administration
Yeah,
to
let us
see
know
what the
what we
best
can
time
do.
is, as long as you three are available
So we're talking Saturday mornings,
a
right?
Saturday morning.
What time did you do yours in Franklin?
8 a.m., 8:30.
8:30.
8:30. We had to have time to get the donuts in.
That's late.
Who made the donuts? Joanne?
Franklin Denny.
They're excellent.
So let me know, I have a connection.
Do they do gluten-free?
I guess I would think that if we're gonna do donuts, we shouldn't do necessarily Dunkin' Donuts. Personally, I think after they're cold for about 4 hours, they aren't very
Two
good. But,
Fiddlers on the Green over in Highgate.
yeah, I think we should look for a bakery. Just a suggestion.
Well, it'd be nice if you did it, it'd be,
Mother Hubbard, yes.
well, but someone that lives in this town.
Right.
maybe.
Mother Hubbard would be good.
Yeah, we can
Are they a
put
They
you
are
down on that.
So I
Oh,
had a
know they're
suggestion
good.
from the
I
Highgate
just wanted to make sure they
CEO.
respond.
Yes.
I didn't want, I'm trying to.
I was out before I came
No,
here.
I just want to make sure they.
They had suggested, they loved the brochure that we did last time, but they also asked if we could do a Q&A in layman's terms to answer some of the questions like some ones that Siobhan has raised, because there's a lot of things that people don't understand. So if we can explain in layman's terms, I saw the town of Georgia had done this, with their budget revote, what does it mean to pass that borrowing article? Why did the budget go up this year? Because there's things that are out of our control. Those kinds of things, if we could explain in layman's terms, not school terms, some of the basic information, they thought that would work out better.
We did that for our first vote, and that was a suggestion, so I think doing it again, different set of questions.
Right.
And I think that instead of having that summary page with all, showing all the, the line items and that we should just show cut from last budget, or from the first budget, you know, 1 million whatever, and then show what has been cut and list that, and then what the final budget is, and just show the cuts and not show, you know, I don't think we need to show all these items all over again. I feel like it almost kind of, you know, they wanna see what's been cut, I think, more than, I think it was fine for the first budget, obviously, but for, at this point, that seems to be like the focus of what they would like to see.
To Don's point earlier, though, if we're only gonna show the cuts, we've gotta show what we're adding into, because they're gonna do the math.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I mean, the net.
Yeah.
So it's transparent.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, both, I mean, you have to, because they won't add up.
Right, that's what I was saying.
That's exactly it. There's nothing
Absolutely,
worse-
you want it to add up.
Nothing worse than numbers not adding up.
Oh, yeah, no, you have to do both, absolutely.
So a flyer is a yes amongst everybody?
The Swanton Select Board did give you an open invitation when we were there also. If that's interest to anyone, they did say that.
What's the date of the select board meeting? We can find.
It's the one we don't want to conflict with, so.
It's the first and third, I believe.
First and third Tuesday.
But we're gonna change ours anyway, right? Are we changing our June board meeting?
Well, it is on the first, but we could send somebody over, right? It doesn't have to be. The first, the select board meeting, I believe, is on the 4th of June, so if we had someone from Swanton who wanted to go over to that board meeting, the select board meeting on the 4th of June.
Laura and I did it last year, so I'm not
available
volunteering
that
this year.
day.
Since I did it last year.
I'm not sure what my schedule is yet, but I should know by tomorrow. Yeah. I just need the schedule.
Okay, so, coffee Q&A we got so far, in Swanton. Swanton Select Board meeting, flyers, and then we have our informational meeting.
I can do
I'm inviting the Swanton Select Board and the village trustees to our little donut gathering.
That's what we did.
I think it's a good idea.
Not the Swan one.
Good on you.
We'd have the Swan rep, though.
Good idea, Don.
I just think that, and I'm sure that, you know, everybody's busy, but I think an invitation. And I didn't hear anybody volunteer to go to the select board meeting.
I can go to the select board
You
meeting.
are, oh, good. I think from where Laura and I went, we waited a while. They have pretty full agendas, so.
Anything else?
I'll attend another Highgate meeting.
Anything else?
The last thing I would just say is, I think we did a good job last time, but to make sure the information putting out online, we just stay consistent with it. So,
I don't think that worked in our benefit. I don't know if that's the best mode of sharing information.
I don't see how we can't get information out though. So.
It's just a different medium, it's not putting information out.
What's your suggestion?
The Facebook posts.
Yeah, I think that gets a lot of
misinformation.
Yep, a lot of it.
I do not want to support misinformation going out.
Definitely will update our website. I want to make sure, you know,
Yes.
for instance, we had a conversation about the flyer and not having the budget on the back of the flyer. We did that because after the first flyer, people said they wanted that. And now I think you're right to have different information on this brochure. And of course, that information will be on our school district website, on the budget page, so people can access the budget there. But the flyer, I think, focusing on what's changed, I think will be important, and we'll work with JR on that to make
And
sure.
I really would like to see like a big arrow showing how much that tax rate went down for each town, because it really has gone down substantially between the yield and what we've cut, and I think people need to see that.
Well, and that our cut is cumulative, you know, we've cut
Exactly,
180,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, 1.8, over $1.8 million.
And I also think that, you know, that the different informational meetings that looks like we're having is, I think that Peter's point is really an important point, because people have said they didn't want more cut from the facilities, and I think we really need to explain to them why we did cut the Highgate roof, because it's just simply too late to do the project, not because we wanted to go
cut the
there.
facilities.
Because I mean, I happened to see somebody in the grocery store the other day, they're from Highgate. They're a friend of mine, so that's why I thought it was okay to talk to them. I'm just teasing.
Go ahead.
And she said, well, you know, she said, well, why would you cut the roof? And I explained the whole thing, and she totally understood. And I think it's really important that we do that we explain why we're cutting it, not because we want to, but it's too late to do the project.
On that, the informational, so last time, Joanne and I kind of did that. I think it kind of for the board to decide. We want to do it the same way, or have someone else kind of try to like lead that. I think Peter was looking at me like, I want to do it all.
No.
Or if you want to just turn it over to admin and let them come up with it. I mean, I think we should just have a clear idea of what we want to do now, so that we can work on that.
Right, I mean, we'll have it prepared ahead of time. Laura will be gone in the beginning of June, so we want to get it looking the way we want it to be without too many changes.
Will you be here
Absolutely.
for the informational?
No.
I didn't know we were gonna be doing this, sorry.
No. Do not apologize.
I tried to cancel it, I can't get my money back, so.
Or Laura, you did.
No.
Just wanna see how y'all do.
You'll miss me when I'm gone, that's what I think.
Yeah. I'll be
Julie
thinking
will
about
be
you.
here though.
Oh, yes, I'll be here.
Okay. I need smarter people than me in the room to answer the
You'll
questions.
do fine, you'll do
You'll
fine.
do very well.
I think it should be shortened from what we did last time, straight to the point. This is what we've cut, this is why. I feel like we're sort of beating a dead horse if we go back through every single line and try to explain this CLA and every other detail. I think we've done that. We tend to have the same folks in the room. And I think that they get it at this point, and if there are questions, you know, we're here, we're willing to answer them. We've talked about it at length at meetings. So I just think short to the point, and
So
that's the way to
basically,
do it.
very similar to the flyer information.
Yes.
Just slides.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
We heard a lot that the pie charts, even though that we understood them and we were really trying to get at people's questions, they ended up being even more confusing.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to see when you're just
Yeah.
seeing them, you know, like that. I think you know, it's hard for people to, like, it's not like having a paper in front of you where you can really study it. And I think that's why.
Right, that was one of the comments,
Yeah,
asking
definitely,
to print
we definitely
off.
heard that too.
Print off the slides.
Yeah, then we had to print them off
Yeah,
in the
that's
middle
right.
of it, yeah.
Joanne, what do you think?
Got nothing.
Does it have to be people talking about it, or can it just be simplified slides?
No,
Bullet
I think they
points.
appreciate the school board
Okay.
members
Yes, absolutely.
speaking to it. I mean, it's our budget, so
Yeah.
they respect that we can speak to it and that we understand it. That was definitely one of the, I would say, a complaint of the first one, but we were under circumstances for school break, and so it was already pre-recorded. I don't think they felt that was as homey as, you know, when we speak to the slides as we go through them. And I think we were more relaxed on the second one, where questions were happening as the slides were happening. It's not, you know, we didn't hold all the questions to the end. It was pretty free flowing.
Any volunteers?
I think, just so we said, 3 or 4 slides, like, as far as facilities, we're not gonna go over all the projects again. We're just gonna say, this is what was cut, this is why, da-da-da, and then on to the next one. Anybody has questions, we can talk about projects if they come up, but I think we just make it short and sweet, and just tell them, this is what we did.
So you and Renee, then?
I'll let somebody else.
No, Renee, you do a great job. We gotta have you do it. You will be here,
Madam
right?
Chairman.
We'll do it.
Chairman of the Finance Committee?
Okay. Maybe Jen will do it with you. You do it together.
Sure.
You okay with that?
I'll do it.
Okay, that's good.
Positive peer pressure.
Well, no, he does do a great job, I mean it.
I know.
Let's just hope it works. That's all that matters.
Don't carry that weight on your shoulders.
Okay, all right, anything else? Rennick, you wanna share what you're doing Thursday at the school? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
So that the board, I would like the board to know what's going on.
Yeah, I put out, I'd asked Dan, Dr. Julie, you know, I think it's important to discuss with students a little bit of what's happening. So Dan indicated that there is, MVU seniors are getting their
Cap and gowns.
on Thursday. And so, I guess you'll give me a couple minutes and I'm just gonna kind of bring up, you know, from a board's perspective, you know, this budget and what's happening, and I mean, really, that's the importance of it. A lot of them, they're all graduating, but, you know, what they're leaving behind to, you know, the rest of the students behind them. So just try to kind of let them hear directly from a board member that this is going on, and that'll just be information for them to do as they please.
Is the goal to have them encourage their families to vote and of course vote themselves if they are 18?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So.
We just
I
can't.
have something to say on that, please.
What?
Am I hearing you guys talk about giving information to the students about the votes and, like Megan just said, encouraging their families to vote yes?
We can't encourage people to vote yes. We can only let people know that there is a vote and encourage them to vote.
Right.
Oh, because I had another thought. Champlain Valley Union School District, we all saw it on the news. They had their students outside, you know, gathering to encourage people to pass the budget. And personally speaking, this may be irrelevant. I don't know when's the last day of school for this year, but I personally do not want to see my kids outside, you know, basically protesting to get their families to approve a budget that even many adults themselves don't even understand in layman's terms. You know, I wish I were on the lawn at CVU to ask those students can you define common level of appraisal and ADA and long-term weighted ADA, and they likely would not be able to. I'm all for student engagement, civic engagement, especially with our youth. But unless we have them have the actual information of what all this means, to have them, encourage absolutely their families to vote, but don't do it blindly without the students themselves even understanding how budgets themselves work. It's kind of, it creates issues for families and students and et cetera. And I just don't think it's the right place. Our kids need to be in the classroom learning and not out on the lawn.
I'm just gonna interrupt you.
With signs.
I'm just gonna interrupt.
Yes.
There's no circumstances where anybody on the board or the admin would advocate that any students do anything like that. That is not,
Nobody at Champlain Valley advocated for that either. So the students took their own initiative and did that. That wasn't
that's up to
promoted by
students
the
to
school.
decide what to do and not do. We address students sometimes here in meetings, and we're happy to see them, and any opportunity to engage with them we'll always take, but just to be very clear, there is no desire or intent to have any students do that. It's up to students what they do, and that is not the intent of any such meeting. So I just want to make that pretty clear.
Great, okay, also, I get what you're saying, that students on their own accord did so, but clearly it must have gotten through the grapevine somewhere, because students aren't just thinking about budgets themselves. That's something that the board and the administration thinks about, so I'm glad to hear that. Also, I know you said that J.R. Koch had gotten off of the meeting here. I just want to let you know that he reached out to me in the chat here and offered to sit down with me and help create information for the public, a lot like, I don't know who it was that was speaking, but like people are saying in layman's terms. And I'm a smart cookie. I've spent a lot of time trying to understand this stuff, and there's still a lot of it that eludes me. Essex Westford School District on YouTube has about 9 video informational explaining the budget process. If you guys get a chance, try to take a look at that. Again, that's Essex Westford School District. They do a good general job of explaining it, but I still think that more could be done in layman's terms. And I know that creating content like this is not necessarily something that could be accomplished within the next month with due diligence and putting, the right information into it. But I'd totally be willing to, offer my time to work with JR or whomever to create better, better informed informational videos about budgeting and whatnot. That I think would go a long way with spreading information and transparency among the people. And then the other thing is, and I've mentioned this before, I really think that we need to do a remodel on how our budget is line item. If you compare our budget to Colchester School District, if you look at Colchester School District and how they lay out the budget, it is way more to the point, transparent. It includes way more information, separate line items. Obviously, they're following codes too, because this is their budget and they're following the rules as well. But if you get a chance to compare our budget or any others with Colchester School District, I think that's worth a look, and something that maybe over the next year until next year comes around, that we should maybe look towards changing the whole layout, the model of our budget.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
That's it.
Those are some good suggestions, and we'll definitely look into that over the next 30 days as we try to move forward toward the next vote. Thank you. Madam Chair, what's the next item here?
I just want to make sure everybody's got their say in.
I just want to make the point that I really appreciate Rennick's willingness to go out in public and to do these support things and work with the kids in the school. I know it's not his intention or anyone on the boards to start any kind of rally or anything like that. I know Rennick's intention is to get students involved in community service and understanding their right to vote and that type of thing. So I think it was wrongly mistaken what the intent of what Rennick is doing here, and I just want to. I've seen him at select board meetings and other things, and and I commend him for taking his time to go out and meet the public straight on, and doing the same thing with our school. So I just wanted to get that out there.
So can I ask what exactly is Rennick doing with the students about the budget then? I know you said it's not encouraging them to stand outside and protest, but what exactly is happening with students and the budget in Rennick?
Just for clarification, I'm just gonna go there, one, congratulating a lot of them on graduating soon, if they have any questions, and also address them. I mean, one of the things that we always try to do as a board is address students and get their experiences, see how they're doing, let them know, hey, if you have questions about what's been going on with your school and the budget, like, we're here to answer those, and that's it. Probably be about 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Is this a set date at the school? Like my kids can report back to me in this, or?
Sure.
Is this like school-wide, or?
No, it's just seniors. Or whatever seniors are there. It's on Thursday.
It's a meeting that was already
On this
scheduled.
Thursday?
Yes.
For seniors only, Siobhan.
I mean, I agree, our seniors are about to graduate, they're about to be 18 years old. With the right to vote, some of them already are halfway through the year. At the same time, I just hope this doesn't turn into a lawn protest.
Siobhan, I'm just going to make it clear, there's absolutely zero intent to cite any sort of protest. The fact that we talk to students just like if I talk to a select board or I talk to community members, I mean, I don't think I have that ability to do that at all. So I just want to kind of make that clear. I mean, I have 3 kids in Highgate. I mean, I'm not going to have my kids try to do that either. I mean, I don't even think that's actually effective. So I think the message has to be, one, to answer questions, and to just be available for people who have questions, to include yourself. If you ever want to talk further, we're all available.
I would like to just reaffirm that, and also just, you know, I've said before, the spreading of misinformation, and I just want to make it crystal clear that that is, I don't know how that came into it. That was not the intent. Rennick is, as he said, just making a brief statement. Let's all do our part to make sure that correct information is shared out in the community, and not raise red flags where there are none.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me, and I already had something I wanted to say about the CVU protest. Because I didn't want to see students not learning in the classroom and out on a lawn without actually understanding what's in a budget. But to make it more clear, do you have an agenda or a list or something as to what exactly is going to be spoken about with the students this Thursday?
I think he already said that, Siobhan. He can re-say it if you'd like, but it was...
I did not get the notes. I didn't write that down, so it'll be just about civic engagement, questions about the budget.
If they have any questions about the school or the budget, yeah. But it's not like it's a 10, 20, 30-minute informational meeting.
Questions about just general school questions?
Yeah, Siobhan, one of the things
So questions about the school and the budget?
Yeah, so not to repeat it, one of the things that we always try to do is, we still have board work to do, and we have board goals. And one of the things that we're always interested to hear is also what students are going to be doing after they graduate high school. You know, and any opportunity we can, like, that's the point of everything that we're doing. That's why we're all here tonight, is to work on student outcomes, to work on where students are going to go, to also see how their experiences are, and board members, we try to always get in front of them and have those opportunities. So Dan Palmer was nice enough to invite me to come and talk to a couple seniors for a couple minutes on Thursday. I'll come, I'll say a few words, see how they're doing. If they have questions, mainly if they have questions, I'll address them. If they don't, I have another job to do. So that's about it. That's the full agenda, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Right, moving on. Our next agenda item is policy adoption. F-37 investments and borrowing for action.
So this is the policy that we looked at our last board meeting. It was a recommendation of our auditor. They're now recommending this policy to school boards to have in place. It's not something that was on the Vermont School Board Association recommended policies. It's something new they'd like to see from school districts, and this is word for word what their recommendation was. So we'd like to see a motion to adopt it.
Our auditors, is this related to anything that our auditors would suggest?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, is this something our auditors would suggest?
They did
They did
suggest it.
suggest
It's
it.
the only
I
thing in
thought
our
2 meetings
management
ago
letter.
you said recommendations, you mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Megan. Any questions, comments? All right, seeing none, those agreed, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Next agenda item, warrants.
Alright, so we have, check warrants for accounts payable for $1,117,366.49. Payroll checks for $48,249.99. Payroll and other disbursements for $1,827,140.44, and then payroll deductions for $681,182.13, for a total of $3,673,939.05. And so I'd like to make the motion to approve check warrants.
I'll make the motion to approve the check warrants.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Next, we have the food service management contract award.
Yes, so you've heard me talk about this before, but we went out to bid for food service management services for Highgate, MVU, and Swanton. And this has been a very lengthy process. It's a very scripted process by the state. We had 3 different vendors attend our walkthrough. We had 2 different vendors provide us with a bid. There's a very strict rubric that we have to follow that's outlined prior to opening the bids and everything, and that's now been reviewed by the state as well. But the bidder that has been selected is the Abbey Group, so we would be potentially continuing with them. Up on the screen, there's some things that I should share. The total contract amount is $1.4 million. That's estimated on what they plan the participation to be. And then I just want to share, sorry. It's not visible in mine.
We're not required to take a little bit out of it.
Sorry,
We
we're
are
not required to take the low bid, although the price of the bid has to be the highest weight. So there were lots of other things, including like local foods, different foods that are provided, all the staffing, all those things come into play. But just to note that the reimbursable breakfast, the fixed price per meal would be $2.41. Reimbursable lunches would be $3.99. After school snacks is $1.15. A la carte is $3.99. Supper is $3.99. Summer breakfast is $2.50. Summer lunch is $4.50. Fresh fruit and vegetable is a grant. Catering, $3.99, and there's a management fee that's allowable. It's a calculation. There's a maximum that's allowed is 8 cents. So that brings us to the total bid price of $1.4 million. So I just need a.
Can you tell me what the dates are? Is this like a 3-year or?
It's a 1-year contract with a potential for 4 renewals. And again, we are a CEP school now, so that will be changing sort of how the management flows and the financial or the administrative pieces, but.
Do you know why one of your bidders did? Do you know why one of the people chose not to bid?
We don't. They honestly didn't seem very interested at the walkthrough.
Okay.
So.
How did the other bid compare?
Actually, their price was about $40,000 less, but again, these are based on estimates. But there is I should have mentioned this, there's actually a committee that's required to meet and look at the bids and review them as well as the state. There were 2 people from the business office, Jason Butler, because he works so closely with the Abbey staff and the food service management staff. Somebody else was there. Oh, Yashua Pastina from the Highgate School as a principal rep. And we all scored that we all thought their bid was not well put together. Didn't seem like they had a lot of available options or really put a lot of thought into their bid. Honestly, they answered most of the questions, but not all of them. We had to search for a lot of things, and again, just offerings and consistency of staff, I think, was the 2 big components.
Did you say the state has to review this bid too? Have they already reviewed it?
Yes.
So they're good?
They approved the way that we scored the bids, yes.
Okay.
Looking for a motion to approve this.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Elaine.
Sorry, and I should have said that this is Tina Bushy from the Abbey group here and Nina Hansen.
Hi.
We work with very closely, and they've been very patient. And
thanks to whoever made the agenda.
I hear you.
So that's how we get people to stay.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, we're
Great.
both Highgate parents, so.
Excellent.
And I just, on a personal note, I just want to quickly say I'm a proud parent of 4 kids who've come through the system and are thriving, amazing adults. So thank you for all the work you guys do. Really appreciate it. And on a professional note, we couldn't be happier. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
MVSD fiscal year 24 surplus capital facility task force proposal.
Jason, do you want to come up here too? I'll send it down to sign.
Okay, perfect.
Peter, do you want to take the lead?
You're up
How do you
there.
make it smaller, bigger?
I have it.
Should be linked in the agenda.
Jason is also loving the order of the agenda, I'm sure.
I can maybe just preface it with what Dawn was alluding to before, but we did run a financial report, and I apologize for not putting it in the drive. I can actually email it to you or bring it next month, but we still are anticipating a surplus of about 1.9 million. There is quite a bit of school year left, in my opinion, but we have put out a deadline for all purchasing and POs and credit card purchases and things like that are needed expenses to be in by in 3 days. So by then, there will be some emergencies or things that happen at the end of the year, but schools work really hard so that we know what to anticipate, so that we know what our surplus is going to be.
So, Laura, we're only really adding one. We've already haven't we already put stuff in the surplus? We already approved it.
Absolutely.
So we're adding, and we talked about this at the facilities meeting last time, that we were going to add the Swanton PA system, which is badly needed, and timing was an issue. We couldn't really wait on the budget passing, but the I guess Jason can talk to it. So the big thing is the cost is significantly more than what we had budgeted for. We budgeted for 50,000, and it looks like the total cost is going to be 98,000.
Correct. I can speak to that. 2 years. So we have a vendor that we've always used in Swanton. We brought them in a couple years ago when the issues first started happening. We had him put together a budget for us. So 2 years, the budget came in right just over 50,000. We had spoken to him this year about the budget, and he said unfortunately costs have gone up. So what we ultimately did was we went out to bid. That contractor chose not to provide us with a bid. So we had one contractor that actually provided us with a bid. And this was the bid that we ended up with.
It was in the paper.
Yeah.
And on our website.
Yeah, and I invited 3 other companies to come.
So what's the timing on this, Jason, if we approve this?
So I've been in contact almost daily with the chief estimator for this company. He assures me that if we let him know tomorrow, we can still make this happen by the end of this summer.
Excellent.
So with this and
The items on the
knowns,
bottom.
with this and other knowns, we'll still end the year with a.
Well, there's a whole list of surplus items on the bottom
I know
here.
that, but-
Yeah.
Okay, I just making sure.
Yeah.
But, I guess that was my point. I thought we'd already approved the ones that you had listed below.
I thought we
No.
did too, but this is a change, so.
Not to the full board, this was talked about at a facility meeting, many times actually, the list of, in our long-term plan and then other repair and maintenance items, but this was not brought to the full board unless I'm completely losing my mind.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I thought we had. And
I think
it
we
was-
reported it, I think
Okay.
you reported it, Peter.
Yeah, some things came out of capital. I will just point out this, like, I have it up on the screen again, it's hard to see, but the Swanton HVAC and electrical equipment, we would be purchasing the equipment for a future year, but it would be a good way to utilize the surplus. And then a lot of these other things, like the Swanton interior doors, the Highgate interior doors, those are replacement things that we look to do every year, but with the budget constraints that we're heading into, and we know we're a little bit behind on our replacement cycle anyway, it would be great if we could get ahead on those, and prices keep increasing also, so the sooner we do it, the cheaper it will be.
I know we talked at the facilities meeting about doors and Highgate in particular. Man, they're expensive.
They're very expensive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is there anything else, Jason, that cost has changed since we put these in here?
No, I've been fluently getting numbers, and you know, we're plus or minus, you know, hundreds of dollars. Everything is very, very close to the estimates that we have up there.
Jason, the one thing that's been ongoing for years, how did we come out with, and maybe Laura should answer this, the food service funds? Is that allowing us to take and do those units that we wanted to do?
Oh, the HVAC units?
Yeah.
And we're like this close to getting the approval. I had an email and he was like, I can't say you got the approval, but it's on its last stage. I was like,
Because that'll be a biggie.
We've done a lot over the last 2 years with the food service, though. We have done a lot.
yeah.
These kitchens have come a long way.
But replacing, and I don't know how much the rest of the board knows, but, you know, we've been really trying to do that whole HVAC system, and it's a big undertaking, and we've pieced it out, but this would be a nice piece to get it done.
Yeah, I think it's 6 units.
6 units, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. They're letting us use, if they let us end up using it, it sounds like they're going to.
Is it carryover, how does that carryover compare with previous years? I know that's something
It's
we
been
always.
much higher. The last 2 years, we've been gaining and gaining and gaining. We almost can't keep up with spending what we need to spend because we can only carry forward so much.
You're talking food service.
Right.
Yes.
You're not talking budget.
Oh, no, food service, sorry. That's what you're asking about, yeah. Yeah.
I shifted, I shifted gears.
We'll never spend
I expect that to taper off now that we'll be paying a higher per plate cost, and we will be, but we've never been a CEP school. It can impact our participation, and so we'll see how it goes.
So back to my question, how does the carryover compare with previous years?
Are you talking about the general fund or the hot lunch? General fund.
Yeah.
I would say we're a little bit higher than we were the last couple of years, but usually this is the time of year we start looking at surplus, and if we want to spend some of that down. So we look to carry over $1 million plus to offset taxes in upcoming years, so.
So you'll be back in June with
I
another number?
I will be back in June with a financial report, but unless the board wants me to look to utilize more surplus, I probably wouldn't be recommending that.
No, we'd like to have it to give back to the taxpayers in a future year under revenue.
So just remind me, What was the MVU senior area storefront?
Yep, so in the commons, on the, as you're going out, like towards the front door, if you look to the left-hand side, we have the senior area over there. So there's 2 exterior doors with 4 plate windows, it's that entire storefront.
Okay.
It's really the door system.
Yeah, so it's, the bottom is in very bad shape, it's in much need of replacement, so.
Okay, so as far as so you've got, if I'm looking at this right, $635,948. And does that not include the,
It includes up above, yes.
The PA, yeah.
The PA
It does?
system.
It does
Okay.
include the PA.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. And the contingency, but Jason and I were talking, I mean, I put 3% in there just because shipping,
Oh, I see.
handling, whatever. But we could probably drop that down to 2% now that we have most of the
Right.
quotes, but it depends on what your comfort level is. I just would hate to have us need to go over a tiny bit and then have to come back to you.
well, if you don't spend it, it will go,
We just won't spend it if we don't have to. It just gives us a little flexibility without having to bring it back to the board, yeah.
So-
Shipping is a large driving cost. It is some, I can do a quote today and it might be 1,200. I
Right.
can do a quote next Thursday, it might be 35. So it's all in when it actually ships and where it's shipping from.
so I'll make the motion, once I put my glasses on, to use towards a surplus $655,027 with the projects that we have listed on this spreadsheet.
I'll second. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Sorry, Laura, I wasn't on the same page, I was confused. I thought we'd already looked at that.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, I think we have so many
have talked about it a lot.
times. Believe me, Jason and I have those conversations like weekly. We're already
We
with
prove
it.
that, or did we just talk about it? Absolutely.
All right, next agenda item is new professional hires.
So I have a list of new teachers to bring to you. I'm gonna go through the list fairly quickly, if that's okay. We have Lori Barney coming to MVU as a business education teacher. We have Jack McMullen coming to MVU as a middle school math teacher. We have Stephen Adams coming to Swanton as a guidance counselor. We have Maggie Adams coming to MVU as an art teacher. We have Inez Horozovich, coming to MVU as a high school English language arts teacher. We have Kelly Hyde coming to Swanton as a math coach. We have Julian Cunningham coming to Highgate as a music teacher. We have Ian Fiegler coming to MVU as a social studies teacher. And we have Gwen Fredrickson coming to MVU as a science teacher. We'll be covering both high school and middle school. All really wonderful candidates, some experienced, some new. We've got a couple that we're stealing from local school districts that all's fair in love and public education. So we feel good about these candidates. So we would love to have a motion approving their hire.
I will make that motion.
Are you gonna make it, Jen? I'll second it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Tom.
Are we feeling good about where we are as far as total needs and positions filled? Or do you still have a lot of them out there?
We still have a couple,
But not 15 or 20?
not 15 or 20, just a couple.
Good. Hard to fill them.
I'd just like to, I don't know if it's Bonnie or Julie, but I really appreciate the list you put together. Because I was thinking, what are these other teachers doing? And then I realized you have something there that tells where they're going or whatever. So it's a good list. I appreciate that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. And then, next agenda item is a request for continued enrollment.
Oh my goodness, I didn't put it in the drive. I have, okay.
Oh, there's a letter.
There's a letter.
I did put the letter in the drive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I didn't link it. See, I did it. After 9 o'clock, I forget things. So we have a student who, you know, usually it's very late in the year. The student will be enrolling at BFA in the fall, but the parent would like to have the student continue, and the teachers and administration support her continuing for the rest of the year.
I'd like a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Megan. Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 9-0. Future agenda items, guidance end of the year data, continuous improvement plan, wellness policy, whatever else might come up. Next board meeting will be Tuesday, May 28th at Highgate Library School at 6 p.m. Student success.
Sorry. Is there really a Highgate? Because I feel like we haven't been to Franklin in a while.
No,
And I know it's
we're doing
fine.
it in June.
We're doing yes, they're just flip-flopping.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Speaking of that, I don't know if Laura, Jason would probably, but is there gonna be a, well, no, like, EI, are they gonna like do a wrap-up, like, bring us through, like, Joyce and everything and say we're done and this is what it looks like? I'm just wondering if it could be involved, that's all. If
So,
they're gonna have
yeah,
it.
I can make sure that you're involved. So currently, Joyce and Stephen and the EI folks are going through the final, sort of punch list. So they're
Yeah.
establishing the punch list, then we'll sit and meet and go over the punch list, and then there would be, once those items are done, then we could arrange that, and I can make sure that you're involved.
Okay, thanks.
I'd like to attend that too.
Okay.
Me too.
And Stephanie too, if she wants to.
Yeah.
It's a good learning experience, so.
Yeah.
Student Success Committee meeting is May 29th, Central Office, 6 to 7:30. And the last agenda item, Peter.
Well, seeing we're an hour late, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:12 p.m. by Peter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Megan. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.